Chapter 3970. With Ji Tianqing's strength and methods, he could easily break through the Star Realm's entrance and kill his way in. However, he knew that the Star Realm's entrance was heavily guarded, which meant that the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor was extremely cautious. If he killed his way in, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor would probably flee when he heard the news. The Sirius Star Zone was so big. If the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor escaped, it would be extremely difficult to find him again. Currently, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor was not on guard against his arrival. Therefore, he could not expose himself yet. He had to catch the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor off guard. Ji Tianqing hid outside the Star Realm's entrance and patiently waited for an opportunity to sneak in. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 10 days passed in a flash. On the morning of the 11th day, a team of God King experts flew over the sea. There were more than 10 God King experts in this team. Their leader was a 9th stage God King with a leopard's head, a pair of blood-colored wings, and dark golden armor. The 10 other God Kings behind him were all in the 8th stage realm, 7th stage realm and 6th stage realm. Logically speaking, such a team of God Kings would definitely be the top fighting force in the Sirius Star Zone. However, these God Kings did not look awe-inspiring. In fact, they looked rather miserable and wretched. All of them were either lightly or heavily injured, and they looked very tired. Ji Tianqing recognized them at a glance. The leader of these God Kings was the Grand Marshal of the Sirius Star Zone, God King Yunchuan. Previously, these God Kings had fought with God King Luo Chen and issued an ultimatum. After they left, Ji Tianqing went to talk to God King Luo Chen. Logically speaking, they should have returned to the 7 Luminary Star Zone first. However, their strength was lower and their speed was much slower than Ji Tianqing's. This was why they were late even though Ji Tianqing had been in the 7 Luminary Star Zone for 10 days. Ji Tianqing's eyes lit up when he saw God King Yunchuan and the others. He remained invisible and concealed his aura as he quietly crept over. He wanted to follow one of the God Kings into the 7 Luminary Star Realm like how he had snuck into the Xuanji Grotto Heaven years ago. He was already familiar with this kind of thing and had rich experience. However, Yunchuan and company had never experienced such a vicious beating, so they were naturally unprepared. When the guard commander guarding the entrance saw Yunchuan and company return, he hurriedly went forward to welcome them. After verifying the identity medallions of the God Kings, the guard commander bowed respectfully and flattered them. However, Yunchuan and company thought nothing of it. They swaggered into the white vortex. Swoosh! Swoosh! In a flash of white light, a dozen or so God Kings entered the 7 Luminary Star Realm to report to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. No one knew that Ji Tianqing, who had turned into dust, had followed this group of God Kings into the 7 Stars Star Realm. The 7 Luminary Star Realm wasn't very big. It only had a radius of 300,000 miles. The scenery inside wasn't bad. Clear water, green mountains, and abundant divine power. It was quiet and peaceful. However, Ji Tianqing had seen too many paradises in the Dragon Realm and the God Realm. When he looked at this kind of environment again, he felt that it was extremely boring. There was nothing to say. Yunchuan and company flew for hundreds of thousands of miles and reached the depths of the Star Realm. In a towering mountain range, there was a resplendent palace complex. The hundreds of palaces looked very majestic. However, the architectural style and decoration style had the characteristics of other races. It looked a little strange. More than 30,000 godly beings of other races lived here. Just the Divine Lord Realm Guards numbered more than 5,000. As for the Godly Monarch Realm experts, there were more than 60 of them. For a Starfield Lord, this level of strength and foundation was considered strong enough. However, Ji Tianqing believed that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor would definitely feel aggrieved. The scale of strength and the simple environment were incomparable to the mysterious Grotto Heaven. Therefore, the lord of a stellar domain was still incomparable to the position of Dragon Emperor in the Dragon Realm. Yunchuan and company entered the palace complex and landed in front of the tallest and most majestic palace. This 7 luminaries divine palace was the residence of the lord of a stellar domain. It was also the place where important matters were discussed. Yunchuan got the others to return to their residences to recuperate. He entered the 7 luminaries divine palace alone to report to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. After the dozen or so godly monarchs bowed and bade farewell, they dispersed. Ji Tianqing hurriedly followed Yunchuan and silently entered the 7 luminaries divine palace. There were more than 1,000 divine lord guards inside and outside the palace. There were also 6 godly monarch experts presiding over the place. It could be said to be heavily guarded. Even though Yunchuan was the Grand Marshal and a trusted aide of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, he still had to go through numerous checks before entering the palace. As for Ji Tianqing, he was still an invisible speck of dust. He stuck to Yunchuan's armor and did not attract any attention. Moments later, Yunchuan passed through a winding corridor and entered the depths of the palace. He passed through a dark passageway and arrived outside a secret chamber underground. This secret chamber was constructed using extremely precious materials. It was extremely sturdy, safe, and concealed. Yunchuan stood outside the secret chamber and waved his hand to dismiss the 2 guards at the door. Then, he bowed at the secret chamber's door and reported, "Your Majesty Dragon Emperor, Yunchuan has returned to report." The secret chamber was extremely quiet. Moments later, a deep male voice sounded. "Yunchuan, what was the outcome of your battle with Luochen? Were any of the generals injured or sacrificed? Did that renegade, Luochen, know his wrongs and repent?" Yunchuan maintained his bowed posture and reported the situation truthfully. Ji Tianqing had already left his armor and reverted to his dragon race youth appearance. He stood by the side and listened silently. Although he was only 3 steps away from Yunchuan, Yunchuan did not notice him at all. After hearing Yunchuan's report, he learned that there were more than 20 godly monarchs on the mission. 6 godly monarch experts had perished in this battle. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's voice sounded from the secret chamber. It contained a tinge of anger and killing intent. He bellowed coldly, "This emperor is benevolent and has repeatedly given him the chance to repent. However, he has rejected it every time. Since he insists on seeking death, don't blame this emperor for being heartless. Alright, Yunchuan, all of you performed very well. Retreat and enter seclusion to recuperate. In another 10 years, this emperor will leave seclusion after a full recovery. When that happens, this emperor will heavily reward all of you loyal subjects. As for Luochen and the rebels under him, this emperor will eradicate them all." Yunchuan hurriedly bowed and thanked him before taking his leave. The dark passageway regained its silence. There was also no movement in the secret chamber. At this moment, Ji Tianqing raised his hands and conjured a divine art, using an array Dao divine power. Swish! 2 golden beams of light spread out and formed a light barrier in the blink of an eye that enveloped the secret chamber. The golden light was invisible and was not detected by the guards outside. However, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor in the secret chamber sensed something amiss. Ji Tianqing finished his art and sealed the area, preventing others from probing the situation. Before he could open the door to the secret chamber, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's voice sounded from inside. "Long Tian, if this emperor is not wrong, you are here." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's tone was low and cold. However, there was no shock or panic. Clearly, he had sensed Ji Tianqing's existence before Yunchuan left. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 3971. Although the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was not as powerful as Ji Tianqing, he was still a peak god king. Moreover, he was a dragon emperor with more than 20,000 years of experience. He was a shrewd dragon emperor. Even though he had yet to recover from his injuries, he was not to be underestimated. Ji Tianqing was surprised to hear the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's voice. However, he was not shocked. It would be disappointing if the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor did not notice that he was already at the door of the secret chamber. Moreover, he had set up a large formation to isolate the secret chamber. Those outside would not be able to see what was going on in the secret chamber, nor would they be able to hear what was going on in the formation. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was familiar with his aura. When he saw the formation, he could guess who he was. Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, how have you been? Ji Tianqing smiled and greeted the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor as he looked at the door of the secret chamber. Aren't you going to open the door of the secret chamber and invite me in? This is not the way to treat a guest. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's voice rang out from the secret chamber with a hint of sarcasm. You sneaked in without notifying me and even set up an isolation formation. This is not the way to treat a guest either. Ji Tianqing was not angry. Instead, he said calmly, I set up the formation to isolate this place because I have something to say to you in private. I do not want to be disturbed by others. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's voice rang out again with a hint of cold killing intent. What is there to talk about between us? Didn't you deliberately come here to kill me and eliminate the source of the problem? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and smiled. How can you be so sure? As the saying goes, there are no eternal enemies, only eternal benefits. There is no deep hatred between us. Why must we fight to the death? The secret chamber was silent for a moment. Then, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor asked cautiously, Are you really not here to kill me? Whether I kill you or not depends on you. As of now, I have no intention of killing you. Ji Tianqing answered honestly. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor fell silent again as though he was considering. After that, the door of the secret chamber opened to both sides with a soft creaking sound. After the door was opened, a dense five-colored divine power spread out from the secret room. Ji Tianqing calmly looked into the secret room. He saw that there were many bookshelves, tables, chairs, and luxurious decorations in the room. The floor was engraved with divine formation patterns, and the walls were covered with exquisite carvings. There were also many secret compartments for storing treasures. In the secret room, there was a bed made of divine jade, as well as a five-colored pool formed by the condensation of divine power. It seems like there are still some forces in the Starsource continent who are secretly sending you information. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor sneered. So what? I have controlled the Starsource continent for almost 10,000 years. Do you know how deep my foundation is? Even if I have lost my power, I still have many loyal followers. However, don't think that you can force me to betray those forces and experts who are loyal to me. Ji Tianqing thought for a while and said seriously, although I am not interested in the position of Dragon Emperor and have no desire for power and status, I have already obtained it. However, this prince would never spit out what was already in his hands. Therefore, if you want to take revenge on me and plan to take back the Starsource continent, you should give up now. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor immediately understood what he meant. He asked, So you said that whether you kill me or not depends on my choice. Your so-called choice depends on whether I want to take revenge on you and take back the Starsource continent. Ji Tianqing nodded. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor asked again, What if I hate you to the core and have been plotting how to get rid of you and take back the Starsource continent? What will you do? Then I will kill you now to prevent any future troubles, Ji Tianqing answered without hesitation. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor frowned and stared coldly at Ji Tianqing. His expression was very serious and guarded. At this moment, his emotions were a little complicated. Hundreds of thoughts flashed through his mind. He really wanted to fight with his life on the line. He wanted to use the divine formation in the secret room and his trump card to kill Ji Tianqing. However, the problem was that he was not confident at all. He did not even have 20% confidence. Once he made a move and failed, what awaited him would definitely be death. This was because he had seen through Ji Tianqing and knew that Ji Tianqing was a man of his words. He was hesitating and weighing the pros and cons. However, after a long while, he gave up on that dangerous thought. His anger and killing intent dissipated. I will never return to the Dragon Realm. In other words, he would not take revenge on Ji Tianqing or snatch the Starsource continent. Ji Tianqing couldn't help but applaud for him. He praised from the bottom of his heart, "You're indeed the Dragon Emperor. You can even say that you're afraid in such a fresh and refined way. Your realm is so high that it's really admirable." The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor frowned and glared at him angrily. Ji Tianqing chuckled and said, "All right, there's only you and me here. Stop acting all high and mighty. I won't fall for it. If you were stronger than me, you would have killed me long ago and taken back the Starsource continent. Why are you still acting all high and mighty?" The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor was speechless. Because what Ji Tianqing said was the truth. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor glared at Ji Tianqing and asked in a deep voice, "So, you came to look for me today to ridicule me and make a fool out of me?" "Of course not." Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said earnestly, "I'm here to enlighten you and ask for your help." "Enlighten me? Ask for my help?" The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor frowned and sneered. "I've already thought it through and made up my mind. What's there to enlighten me about? As for asking for my help. Humph, I have a huge grudge against you. Why would I help you?" Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Let's talk about the help later. I'll enlighten you first. Even though most of what you said just now was false, I'm sure you're right. I hope you will treat it as the truth and carry it out. Otherwise, not only will you not be able to take back the Starsource continent, but you will also die under my sword. There are only a few Dragon Emperors in the Dragon Realm. It's not easy for a peak God King to grow. Therefore, you must cherish your life and not seek your own death. Only by living can you surpass the God King realm and reach the God Emperor realm." God Emperor realm? The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's body trembled. His pupils contracted and shone brightly. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "That's a higher realm after surpassing the God King realm. Currently, there is no God Emperor in the Dragon realm. However, there are already 5 in the God realm. There are God Emperors in the God realm. 5. This news had a huge impact on the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor. He lost his composure on the spot and his face was filled with shock. Ji Tianqing nodded again and said earnestly, "You are not popular in the Dragon realm. The other Dragon Emperors don't want to bring you along. Therefore, there are some secrets that you don't know. However, I can tell you today so that you won't be in the dark for so many years. If you don't know these secrets, you will never surpass the God King realm." Ji Tianqing was a junior. Compared to the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor, he was much younger. His tone was like that of a senior advising a junior. However, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor didn't mind. He looked at him expectantly. He only wanted to know what his so-called secrets were. However, after waiting for a while, Ji Tianqing didn't say anything else. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor couldn't help but urge, "What secrets? Tell me quickly." Ji Tianqing rolled his eyes. "Do you want me to stand and tell you a story? You didn't even prepare a table, chairs, or tea. You have no sincerity at all." The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor was stunned. He hurriedly shot out a beam of golden light and took out a luxurious table and chairs made of divine jade. He invited Ji Tianqing to take a seat. Then, he took out a tea set and poured a pot of supreme-grade divine tea for Ji Tianqing. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor lowered his status to serve Ji Tianqing because the temptation of breaking through to the God Emperor realm was too great. That was the obsession of every peak God King. It was more important than their lives. For this goal, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor didn't feel like he had lost anything. Ji Tianqing sat on the luxurious jade chair and sipped his tea. Then, he said slowly, "You also said that if you stay in the Dragon Realm, you won't have any hope of breaking through to the God Emperor realm." "That's true. However, you don't know why." The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor nodded. "Indeed. I heard that the Dragon Realm seemed to have been punished by the heavens. Therefore, it's impossible for anyone to surpass the God King realm. What's going on? Do you know the reason?" Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "As for the specific reason, I'll have to start from the ancient era. At the end of the ancient era, a battle of gods broke out in space. Countless gods were involved." Chapter 3973. After that battle, a great era came to an end. The Dragon Realm was also sanctioned by the heavenly Tao. Many demons became sinners. For example, the Phoenix tribe and the Qilin tribe, who had disappeared a long time ago. Even the Dragon tribe, the Golden Crow tribe, the Cheongqi tribe, and the Tao Tai tribe became sinners. The sinners quickly withered until they fell and perished. The Dragon tribe was the most powerful and could reproduce easily. That was why they were able to drag on until now. However, if you observe carefully, you will realize that the Dragon tribe is getting worse with each generation and will eventually decline. In the end, the Dragon tribe will lose their position as the overlord and be replaced by other tribes. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor had only heard some minor details about what Ji Tianqing had told him. He did not know the details. Now that he had heard everything, he nodded and sighed. "So that's how it is. It's no wonder that I couldn't nurture another Dragon Clan expert even after spending so much effort and endless resources. Since that's the case, I should be able to break through to the God Emperor stage if I stay in the Heavenly Wolf Star Zone." After knowing this secret, his desire to return to the Dragon Realm and take back the Starsource continent faded a little. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said with a frown, "How can it be that simple?" The other Dragon Emperors all left their avatars in the Dragon Realm to manage the affairs while their true bodies went to the Outer Realm to cultivate. However, 1,000 years have passed. Have you seen anyone showing signs of breaking through to the God Emperor stage? I have not. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor thought for a moment and asked, "Then why are there 5 God Emperors in the God Realm? Is it because the God Realm was not punished by the Heavenly Tao?" Ji Tianqing explained, "The God Realm was not punished by the Heavenly Tao only partly. More importantly, one needs an earth-shattering opportunity to break through to the God Emperor stage. Without that opportunity, no one will be able to break through." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's eyes lit up even more. Even his breathing quickened. "What opportunity?" Ji Tianqing glanced at him and did not answer. He only picked up his teacup and drank tea. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was even more anxious now as he hurriedly urged. Ji Tianqing chuckled, "Golden Dragon Emperor, I know what this opportunity is, and I also possess it. In the future, among the peak divine kings of the Dragon Realm, I will definitely be the first to break through to the God Emperor realm. However, I only told this secret to the Black Dragon Emperor, the Red Dragon Emperor and the Sacred Dragon Emperor. Because they are all my good friends, elders and brothers that I can trust. As for you, we're not that close yet." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was stunned. Soon after, he revealed an awkward smile and nodded, "I was careless. I could only casually reveal such an important secret. With your relationship with me, I wouldn't believe you even if you told me. It's good that you know your limits." Ji Tianqing smiled and said meaningfully, "Although I can't tell you now, it will depend on your performance in the future. Perhaps I will tell you." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor frowned as he stroked his beard and sneered, "What? You want to use this secret to trick me into pledging my loyalty to you? This kind of trick is too childish." Ji Tianqing pursed his lips and said, "I don't know if it's true or not. Then you can wait for the news of me breaking through to the God Emperor realm. As for pledging my loyalty, Don't make it sound so bad. Even if you want to join me, I will only treat you as a friend and not a servant or subordinate. Look at the Black Dragon Emperor, the Red Dragon Emperor and the Sacred Dragon Emperor. I am very close to them. Have I ever been subordinate to them? The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was silent, but he was a little tempted. To be honest, compared to the position of Dragon Emperor in the Stellar Source Continent, the opportunity to break through to the God Emperor realm was more attractive to him. Ji Tianqing could tell that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was a little tempted, so he continued to persuade him, as a peak divine king, you are already standing at the top of the dragon realm. Your vision and knowledge cannot be limited to the dragon realm. Otherwise, you will not be able to improve. You should look beyond the outer realm. Only this vast and endless void can help you break through to the God Emperor realm. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor nodded to show that he understood and understood. But he still had doubts and asked directly, Long Tian, how do you know that there are 5 God Emperors in the divine world? And how do you know these secrets? Ji Tianqing explained, don't forget that I left the dragon realm more than 1,000 years ago to cultivate in the divine world. I only returned to the dragon realm a few decades ago. As for these secrets, most of them were found out by my master, the Sky-Sealing Dragon Emperor. 1,000 years ago, my master already knew these secrets and was looking for a solution. Because of this, he sacrificed himself. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was enlightened and sighed. I see. No wonder the Sky Dragon Emperor disappeared for no reason at his prime. In the past, I treated him as an elder and respected him from the bottom of my heart. But I didn't expect Senior Sky Dragon to be so noble, sacrificing himself for the people of the Dragon Realm. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was flattering the Sky Dragon Emperor to get closer to Ji Tianqing. This method was very effective, but it wasn't annoying and wouldn't make him look like he was groveling. After a moment of silence, he tried to ask again. Long Tian, these secrets are very important. Especially the fact that you have the opportunity to break through to the God Emperor realm. This is a shocking secret. If it were anyone else, they would hide it and wouldn't reveal it easily. Why do you want to tell me? Aren't you afraid that I'll reveal it? That I'll bring disaster to you? Ji Tianqing smiled disapprovingly. Other than the 5 God Emperors, no one in this world can kill me. Even if you want to reveal this secret to the 5 God Emperors, you won't be able to see them. Moreover, if you kill me, it won't do you any good. But if you're on good terms with me, you'll have a chance to break through to the God Emperor realm like the Red Dragon Emperor, Black Dragon Emperor, and Sacred Dragon Emperor. As long as you're not a fool, you'll know what to do. When you break through to the God Emperor realm, you'll help all the other Dragon Emperors break through to the God Emperor realm. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was shocked and couldn't believe it. He didn't believe that anyone would be so selfless. At least, he definitely couldn't do it. Ji Tianqing nodded and said seriously, I know you don't believe me, but this is indeed my plan. Because I want to save the Dragon Realm and change the fate of the Dragon Realm. And this is a huge mission that I cannot accomplish alone. I need your support and help. What do you mean? The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was shocked again. You want us to help you resist the Heavenly Tao's punishment and help the Dragon Realm get rid of the heavenly punishment? That was ridiculous. Which living being in this world dared to resist the will of the Heavenly Tao? Ji Tianqing said seriously, not only to get rid of the heavenly punishment, but also to resist the 5 God Emperors of the divine world. They're crazily plundering the resources of the divine world and the outer realm. They even want to occupy and enslave the Dragon Realm. If we don't work together to resist, how can we resist the invasion of the 5 God Emperors? Could it be that you want the Dragon World to become their mine, a beast pen for slaves? Chapter 3974. The 5 God Emperors of the God Realm are actually plotting something like this? The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor was even more shocked and in disbelief. This was the first time he had heard of the 5 God Emperors of the God Realm. He did not know anything about them at all. Therefore, even though Ji Tianqing spoke with a solemn expression, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor was still skeptical. Ji Tianqing explained in a low voice, although you have not met the 5 God Emperors, you should know that the domain masters of the 9-star domains are all godly kings of other races. However, in reality, they all have powerful backers behind them. Unfortunately, the 5 great God Emperors had all supported the puppet region master, who controlled quite a few star regions. The 5 God Emperors have extremely high standards and look down on those star domains. However, they treat those star domains as mines and enslave everyone in those star domains to plunder cultivation resources. The God realm has long been enslaved by the 5 God Emperors. The other star domains cannot escape this fate. Then, what do you think the 5 God Emperors' next target will be? Hearing this, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor felt that it made sense and could not help but nod. However, he was still confused and asked, they are already God Emperors. Why are they still plundering cultivation resources? Those low-level cultivation resources are not of much use to them, right? Ji Tianqing smiled and explained, they are not plundering endless cultivation resources for cultivation. Of course, they are doing it for another earth-shattering plan. I know a little about that plan, but I have not investigated the details. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor subconsciously wanted to ask if he could give a general idea. However, he thought about it again. Ji Tianqing would definitely not tell him such a secret. Even if he asked, he would only be asking for a rebuff. After a moment of silence, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor continued, all right, even if I believe you, the 5 God Emperors will invade the Dragon Realm and enslave all the people of the demon race. However, what does this have to do with me? From now on, I will stay in the Sirius Star Zone and will not return to the Dragon Realm. Ji Tianqing sneered, it has nothing to do with you. Ha! When the nest is overturned, how can any egg remain intact? The 5 God Emperors will enslave the God Realm, the Dragon Realm, and the 9 galaxies. Hiding in the Sirius Galaxy is useless. Besides, you are also a senior and expert of the Dragon Clan, the Great Dragon Emperor. Even if you don't return to the Dragon Realm, don't tell me you don't have friends and relatives in the Dragon Realm. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor said expressionlessly, I don't have a wife or children. I don't care about the lives of others. Humph, cold-blooded and heartless indeed. Ji Tianqing sneered contemptuously. In the end, you're just afraid of death. You only know how to curry favor with those in power, and you don't dare to fight back. Even if you were once the Dragon Emperor, you no longer have any backbone and dignity. A pitiful worm like you doesn't have the right to become a God Emperor. Ji Tianqing's scolding was very unpleasant, but the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor endured it. He was neither angry nor refuted. In short, he was not going to board Ji Tianqing's pirate ship. Thinking about it carefully, Ji Tianqing did not kill him because he wanted to rope him in. He did not have to pay anything to know these secrets. This was definitely a great deal. However, Ji Tianqing's next sentence left him dumbfounded. Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, there's no use pretending to be a coward in front of me. I've said what I wanted to say. Now, you have to make a stand. You should know that I didn't come here to chat with you today. Seeing that Ji Tianqing's expression had changed, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor hurriedly changed the topic. Long Tian, you said that you came here today for 2 things. The first was to enlighten me, and the second was to ask for my help. Now that you're done, tell me what you want me to help with. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said with a smile, we'll talk about the help later. It's time for you to make a stand. Remember, you only have this one chance. Either you join us and save the Dragon Realm together and fight against the invasion of the 5 God Emperors. Or I'll kill you right now. Since you're not willing to save the Dragon Realm, you're of no use to me. I'll just kill you. As he spoke, he emitted a cold murderous aura that filled the entire secret room and enveloped the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor could clearly sense that Ji Tianqing was much stronger than he was a few decades ago. At least several times stronger. Back then, he was already no match for Ji Tianqing. Now, it would be even easier for Ji Tianqing to kill him. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor glared at Ji Tianqing and shouted angrily, "Long Tian, you've gone too far. Even if I'm no match for you, you won't have an easy time if I fight with all my might." Ji Tianqing sneered disapprovingly. "Since that's the case, what are you waiting for? I've recently made great progress and want to kill a peak god king as a sacrifice to my sword." Then, his fingertips lit up with a dazzling golden light and emitted a violent sword intent. The formless sword intent locked onto the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor and went straight for his mind and godhead. Instantly, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor felt a chill run down his spine as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Seeing that Ji Tianqing's aura was rising, the 3-foot-long sword light at his fingertips was about to explode. In the next instant, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was about to be killed by the sword light. At this moment of life and death, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor admitted defeat without hesitation. "Stop. Long Tian, you've won. I admit defeat and am willing to join you to save the Dragon Realm and fight against the invasion of the 5 God Emperors. Going against heaven's wrath and going against the 5 God Emperors would only lead to death. However, that was a matter for the future. If he didn't agree to Ji Tianqing's request now, he would die immediately. He already had an answer for what to do. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor chose to admit defeat and compromise with Ji Tianqing. However, Ji Tianqing's killing intent and the sword light at his fingertips didn't dissipate. He took out a jade slip and threw it to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor as he said expressionlessly, "Words are no proof. I won't believe a cunning old fellow like you. Swear to the heavens according to the contents of the jade slip. I'll only believe you if you swear to the heavens." "What?" The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's eyes widened in anger. He felt extremely humiliated. "Long Tian, don't go overboard. You don't dare to swear." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and sneered. "That means you're disloyal. What you said just now was false. Since that's the case, I can't let you live." As he spoke, he activated his sword light to kill the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor on the spot. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor gritted his teeth, but he could only suppress his anger and humiliation as he picked up the jade slip. After hesitating for a long time, he finally followed the example of the oath in the jade slip and started to recite it in a low voice. Ji Tianqing had prepared this custom-made oath for the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor before he came to the 7 luminary star. The oath had more than 1,000 words. It was very detailed and complicated, but it covered every detail. As long as the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor recited this oath, he would basically be selling himself. Not only would he not be able to take revenge on Ji Tianqing, but he also couldn't harm Ji Tianqing's friends and family. He couldn't even think of taking back the Starsource continent. He even had to listen to Ji Tianqing's instructions and fight to protect the Dragon Realm. He couldn't back down. Chapter 3975. Today was the most humiliating day of the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's life. Even decades ago, when he was severely injured by Ji Tianqing and had to flee, he was not as pathetic as he was today. This was too humiliating. Once this heavenly Tao oath was established, he would be bound tightly. Even though he was not Ji Tianqing's servant or subordinate in name, this was the truth. As he recited the heavenly Tao oath, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor paused a few times. Every time, he had to take a deep breath and remind himself to calm down. Only then could he calm down. When he was halfway through reciting the heavenly Tao oath, countless streaks of divine light appeared above the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's head. 15 minutes later, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor finally finished reciting the heavenly Tao oath. At this moment, countless streaks of divine light intertwined. The heavenly Tao oath also showed a hazy scene. Thunder rumbled in the sky. Without a doubt, the heavenly Tao oath had been established. It was recognized and supervised by the heavenly Tao. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor originally thought that it was only an oath to the heavens. It would not matter even if he went against the oath. However, when he saw the countless streaks of divine light and felt the hazy heavenly Tao oath, he lost all hope. Of course, he knew what this meant. After the oath was established, he had to follow it strictly. He could not go against it. Otherwise, the heavenly Tao would punish him and kill him before Ji Tianqing even made a move. After reciting the heavenly Tao oath, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor sat on the altar in a daze. He was so dispirited that he looked like a frosted eggplant. Ji Tianqing kept the jade scroll and stood up. He looked at the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor and said calmly, "Don't cry. I'm not asking you to sell yourself as a slave. Is there a need to be so bitter? As long as you remember the oath and never take revenge on the Myriad Demon Alliance, never make an enemy out of me, and listen to my orders, you will be safe. Moreover, this will only be beneficial to you." His comforting words seemed to make some sense. However, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor would only feel more humiliated. He would not be relieved. Ji Tianqing did not care if the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor had calmed down or not. He continued, "All right, I can only believe you after you made the heavenly Tao oath. Now, you have to do me a favor." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor remained silent as he tried to calm his anger. Ji Tianqing didn't care whether he agreed or not. He ordered, "Use all your men and forces to investigate whether the sky-sealing Dragon Emperor came to the Sirius Galaxy 1,000 years ago. Even if there is no definite news, as long as there are similar clues or deeds, they want me to report it. This prince will give you a month's time to supervise you in handling this matter. If you do this half-heartedly, you should know the consequences." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, who had been silent all this while, suddenly raised his head and asked with a frown, "You want to stay here for a month? Supervise me?" Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly, "That's right. From now on. You, do it now, immediately, immediately." After he finished speaking, he sat on the jade chair and leisurely sipped his tea, looking like he was going to stay here and not leave. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was infuriated by Mo Wuji's shameless behavior. However, he had just made an oath to the heavenly Tao. If he were to break his oath now, he would be taking things too far. He didn't want to use his life to test the power of the heavenly Tao's punishment. After taking a few deep breaths, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor suppressed his anger. He nodded and said, "All right, I will pass down the order now." He took out a few communication jade slips and sent them to his trusted subordinates, ordering them to start the investigation immediately. Before long, Ji Tianqing's consciousness detected that the few high-level god kings in the God Palace had started to get busy. Those trusted generals, including Marshal Yun Chuan, had started to gather people and sent out many communication jade slips. He believed that the order would soon reach the Star Lords of the various stars. Seeing that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was obediently carrying out the order, Ji Tianqing didn't say anything else. He sat on the chair and closed his eyes to rest, waiting patiently. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor couldn't calm down and couldn't focus on recuperating. He sat on the altar and stared at Ji Tianqing with hatred. He didn't speak or move. However, Ji Tianqing ignored him and continued to meditate with his eyes closed. Time passed quietly. An entire day had passed, but Ji Tianqing didn't change his posture. He was still as relaxed and comfortable as ever. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor stared at him for an entire day, but it didn't work. He couldn't help but feel defeated. He knew that he had already lost to Ji Tianqing in terms of shamelessness. There was no point in continuing to waste time. He could only calm down and start recuperating. Time passed day by day. Every 3 to 5 days, the Star Lords of the various planets would send some scattered messages to him. These news were gathered by a few trusted generals and reported to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor didn't even want to look at it. He directly passed it to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing looked at the various messy clues and information. He felt a headache coming on and couldn't help but complain for a long time. Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, are these generals and trusted subordinates of yours all brainless? I'm looking for news related to the sky-sealing Dragon Emperor. He is a peak god king. Take a look for yourself. What are these Star Lords reporting? Don't you know how to select your trusted generals and shove all of them to you for you to make the judgment? It's fine if those Star Lords don't have brains, but even your trusted generals and marshals are so perfunctory. I really feel sorry for you. Look, this is the way the foreign races' god kings do things. They can't be compared to the elites of the dragon realm. To put it bluntly, even a pig is smarter than them. Are you wasting my time? This is an insult to your intelligence, Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Ji Tianqing looked like he was heartbroken. However, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor acted like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. No matter what Ji Tianqing said, he turned a deaf ear. Anyway, I've already done what you asked me to do. As for whether I can do it or not, I don't care. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing was more magnanimous and didn't argue with him. After looking at the scattered news for a month, he could only give up helplessly. Forget it. Send an order to those useless subordinates of yours. They don't have to work anymore. In this month, I've seen tens of thousands of news. I've almost heard the legends of every star. There's so much news, but none of it is reliable. It looks like Master really didn't come to the Heavenly Wolf Star Zone back then. The 1-month deadline was finally over. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, who had been silent all this time, was finally free. He opened his eyes and looked at Ji Tianqing. He asked, everyone knows that the Heavenly Dragon Emperor has been dead for thousands of years. Why are you still looking for him? He can't be alive. Your efforts are useless. Chapter 3976. Originally, Ji Tianqing did not want to answer the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's question. However, he changed his mind and decided to dig a hole to trap the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor even more tightly. Therefore, he sighed with a complicated tone. Although the outside world is saying that Master has fallen, I do not see Master's remains and remains. But without seeing Shizuan's body and relics, this prince will not accept this result. As a disciple, I will do my best to investigate this matter. Also, there is another very important reason. Among the god kings in the dragon realm, Master was the closest to becoming a god emperor. He was the sage of the dragon realm. He once saw through heaven's secrets and understood many secrets. Most of the secrets that I told you before were deduced and investigated by Master. Master's fall is also related to heaven's secrets. It is related to the opportunity to break through to the God Emperor realm. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor did not care that Ji Tianqing wanted to find the Heavenly Dragon Emperor's remains. However, since it was related to the opportunity to break through to the God Emperor realm and even greater secrets, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor was very attentive and listened carefully. However, Ji Tianqing's words were vague, and he didn't finish his sentence. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's curiosity was piqued. However, he was left hanging in the air and felt very uncomfortable. However, he did not want to lose face and ask Ji Tianqing for more details. Therefore, he could only suppress his curiosity and ask Ji Tianqing, as far as I know, the Heavenly Dragon Emperor did not come to the Heavenly Wolf Star Zone 1,000 years ago. Since you have not found anything here, will you continue to search? Of course. Ji Tianqing answered without hesitation. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor heaved a sigh of relief and relaxed his brows. So, you are leaving the Heavenly Wolf Star Zone and going to the Heavenly Sun Star Zone to continue your investigation? Yes. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, I have been delayed here for a long time. I will be leaving today. Before I leave, I will remind you to guard the Heavenly Wolf Star Zone well and not let the 5 God Emperor's puppets take it away. Although you were forced to join us and listen to this king's orders. But if the 5 God Emperor's people want to bully you, you can also send a message to this king, and we will try to help you. With that, he tossed over a dozen communication jade slips to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor looked at him and then at the communication jade slip. He was in disbelief. If others invade the Sirius domain, will you really help me? Of course. Ji Tianqing simply replied, this prince has always been very sincere. If you join us, there will only be benefits and no harm. It's just that you're too suspicious and refuse to believe it. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor did not refute and silently accepted the communication jade slip. Seeing Ji Tianqing getting up to leave the secret chamber, he said hypocritically, since you're leaving, I'll send you off. No need. Ji Tianqing said with a playful smile, when you can be more sincere and less hypocritical, Ben Wang will find you more pleasing to the eye. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor frowned but did not refute. I'm leaving. I hope you can understand this the next time we meet. With that, Ji Tianqing turned and left the secret chamber. His figure turned transparent and disappeared. No one noticed when he came to meet the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Naturally, no one noticed when he left the God Palace. Apart from the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor himself, no one knew that the Sirius Domain Lord had been subdued. 2 hours later, Ji Tianqing left the 7 Luminaries Star. He returned to the void, took out the Sword of Burial of Heaven, and continued on his way. Swish! Just like before, the Sword of Burial of Heaven flew through the void. Ji Tianqing entered the Sword World and cultivated in the God Pagoda. The Sword of Burial of Heaven's dull voice rang in Ji Tianqing's mind again. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor is very suspicious and cunning. Even if you force him to swear the Heavenly Tao Oath, I'm afraid he won't submit sincerely. Keeping him alive is an uncertain factor and could become a disaster in the future. In my opinion, you might as well just kill him. Ji Tianqing said indifferently, killing him is easy, but I don't think it's necessary. The 5 God Emperors are already above the rest of the world, but they still want to subdue so many God Kings to work for them. I want to take revenge on the 5 God Emperors and resolve the crisis in the Dragon Realm. Of course, I can't fight alone. If I can subdue a few more peak God Kings, my chances of success in the future will be much higher. Although the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor is very cunning, he's still a dragon. I'm confident that I can rope him in and use him in the future. Since he had already made his decision and was confident enough, the Sword of Burial of Heaven naturally wouldn't say anything more. After a moment of silence, the Sword of Burial of Heaven asked again, do you think the Heavenly Dragon Emperor really left something behind before he died? Ji Tianqing explained, others think that I'm looking for Master's relics or some information or secrets. In reality, I just want to know the truth behind Master's death and why he sacrificed his life. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that Master's death is related to me. Moreover, Master must have seen something when he divined the mysteries of heaven for the last time before his death. If I can find some clues and figure out what he saw, it will be very beneficial to us. The Sword of Burial of Heaven sighed and said, we've investigated the Scorpio and Sirius star regions closest to the Dragon Realm, but we've found nothing. I hope you can find the answer you want in the remaining 7 star regions. After that, Ji Tianqing and the Sword of Burial of Heaven didn't say anything and went their separate ways. The Sword of Burial of Heaven focused on hurrying, while Ji Tianqing focused on cultivating the heaven-punishing divine art to continue improving his strength. Another 4 months later, the Sword of Burial of Heaven left the Sirius star region and entered the Heavenly Sun star region. This star region that had existed since ancient times was slightly smaller than the Sirius star region. There were more than 100 million stars in this star region, and more than 1,000 of them were inhabited by living beings. Previously, when Ji Tianqing killed God King Changfeng, he refined God King Changfeng's soul memories and obtained a lot of useful information. Therefore, although he had never been to the heavenly sun star region, he had a good understanding of this star region. On the surface, the ruler of the heavenly sun star region was a native god king of a foreign race. But in reality, the ruler had been subdued by the nine-sun god emperor more than 900 years ago. Back then, the ruler had just reached the 9th level of the god king realm and wasn't very powerful. After the nine-sun god emperor's guidance and nurturing, he had become a peak god king a few hundred years ago. The heavenly sun ruler's true strength was actually the same as God King Changfeng's. They both had a cultivation base but no corresponding foundation or strength. Even so, the heavenly sun ruler ruled the entire star region with the appearance of a peak god king. No one disobeyed him. At the behest of the nine-sun god emperor, the heavenly sun ruler enslaved thousands of worlds and plundered cultivation resources day and night. The living beings of the foreign races in the thousands of worlds were suppressed like lowly ants and suffered unspeakably. Moreover, the nine-sun god emperor had ordered the entire heavenly sun star region to erect statues of him so that billions of living beings could worship him and provide him with the power of faith. Chapter 3977. Before entering the Tianyang star zone, Ji Tianqing already knew a thing or two about this star zone. He knew who the master of this star zone was, what kind of background he had, and which star he lived on. Therefore, after entering the Tianyang star zone, he didn't have to waste time investigating these things. The Sword of Burial of Heaven shuttled through the Tianyang star zone, flying past one abandoned star after another, heading toward the depths of the star zone. Currently, the Sword of Burial of Heaven was at the edge of the Tianyang star zone. Most of the stars around it were abandoned stars with no living beings. Although some of the abandoned stars contained a lot of ores and metals. However, Ji Tianqing didn't want to waste time devouring these stars. He wanted to reach the depths of the Tianyang star zone as soon as possible to find the Tianyang star zone's ruler. After flying for 3 days, the Sword of Burial of Heaven finally left the edge of the star zone. Most of the stars around it were still abandoned stars, but the number of stars with living beings had also increased. About 100 million miles in front of the Sword of Burial of Heaven, there were a few shining stars with gold, white, and red lights. Those stars had fortresses with spatial barriers, so it was obvious that they were inhabited by living beings. Behind those stars, in the distant void, there were 10 more dazzling stars. Clearly, there were more than a dozen worlds inhabited by living beings of other races. Other than that, the surrounding billions of miles were all abandoned stars. The Sword of Burial of Heaven didn't think too much about it. It had originally planned to pass through this area and reach the depths of the Tianyang star zone as quickly as possible. However, it hadn't expected that a strange phenomenon would suddenly appear in the void. In the dark void behind it to the left, a white light that covered the sky and illuminated a radius of a few 100 million miles. That vast white light was made up of tens of thousands of white light spots. Each white light spot was like a shooting star, with a long white flame trailing behind it. It was very dazzling. Tens of thousands of meteors formed a massive meteor shower, flying through the void at high speed, rampaging through the void. The Sword of Burial of Heaven had just discovered the blazing white light and it saw the meteor shower rushing into the densely packed stars at a terrifying speed. This was despite the fact that those stars were all relatively small and useless. However, each of them had a diameter of over a few million miles, and the larger ones even had a diameter of over 80 million miles. With the powerful impact of the meteor shower, countless cold-wasted stars were blown into smithereens on the spot, spurting out boundless flames. Those fragments also burned as they flew at high speed, turning into more flames and shooting stars. The smaller star fragments flew out for hundreds of millions of miles before burning up and disappearing into the void. As for the star fragments that were relatively larger in size, they shrank rapidly as they burned, leaving behind only condensed star crystals in the end. Those star crystals also became a part of the meteor shower, rushing forward along with the meteor shower. Boom, 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 boom. Just as the boundless white light was about to dissipate, an earth-shattering boom rang out, shaking the void within 1 billion kilometers. Although the sword of burial of heaven was quite far away, it could still feel the destructive power and hurriedly flew forward. At the same time, it used its divine will to send a message to Ji Tianqing, who was still cultivating. The situation is not good. We have encountered a group of meteorites, and it's very powerful. When Ji Tianqing heard this news, he hurriedly ended his cultivation and left the distorted spacetime. Swoosh! With a flash of white light, he appeared in the void, holding the sword of burial of heaven in his hand, frowning as he looked at the rapidly approaching meteor shower. In the past, he had traveled the universe many times, so he knew all kinds of dangers in the universe like the back of his hand. He only observed for a moment before he understood the situation, and his expression became serious. Such a large group of meteorites can only be formed after at least a few thousand stars have been destroyed. I don't know what happened in the depths of the void to create such a terrifying meteor shower. The sword of burial of heaven analyzed in a low voice, even if a few peak godly kings were fighting, it would not be able to create such an earth-shattering scene. I'm afraid that only a large-scale void storm or the disintegration of a star can form such a meteor shower. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a moment, then added, perhaps a battle between a few god emperors could also create such a situation. A battle between god emperors? The sword of burial of heaven was stunned for a moment, and asked with a puzzled tone, aren't the 5 god emperors colluding with each other? Why would they fight each other? Ji Tianqing said with a calm expression, I'm just making an analogy to analyze the formation of this meteor shower. There's no need to take it seriously. The sword of burial of heaven did not continue this topic, and reminded with some concern, even with your current strength, you will be severely injured if you are hit by this group of meteorites head-on. This group of meteorites is extremely fast, and it covers a very wide area, more than 300 million miles in radius. Even if you dodge horizontally now, you can't completely avoid it. But you can brush against the edge of the group of meteorites, and avoid its attack at a minimal cost. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, don't worry, I have a top-grade king-level divine artifact to protect me, so I'll be fine. It's just that, looking at the direction this group of meteorites is going, it will definitely hit the dozen or so stars in front of it. There are at least 1 trillion non-human creatures on those stars. Once hit by the group of meteorites, those stars will be destroyed, and the trillions of creatures will also be annihilated. Hearing him say this, the sword of burial of heaven guessed his thoughts, and asked, do you want to stop the group of meteorites and save the non-human creatures on those stars? Don't forget, those are non-human creatures, and they are not related to you in any way. Ji Tianqing shook his head and said with a smile, that's right, the non-human creatures on those stars have nothing to do with me. If it were a man-made disaster or a war, I would definitely not interfere. However, the sudden meteor shower was an unpredictable natural disaster. I have the ability to resolve this natural disaster. If I don't save them, I won't be able to live with my conscience. The sword of burial of heaven was silent for a moment, and then tried to dissuade him again. Maybe you have the ability to resolve the meteor shower, but you are also in a very dangerous situation, and you may lose your life. Is it necessary for you to take this risk for the sake of those non-human creatures who are not related to you? Ji Tianqing sighed and said, even if they are non-human creatures, they are still living beings. Besides, the entire Tianyang star zone is enslaved by the 9 Suns God Emperor. Those non-human creatures are already in deep trouble. They are innocent and pitiful. Hearing this, the sword of burial of heaven knew that he had made up his mind, and said in a low voice, since you have made up your mind, I won't interfere, but you must act according to your ability. The sword of burial of heaven was only worried about Ji Tianqing's safety, and it didn't care about the non-human creatures' lives at all. "Don't worry, if things don't work out, I will protect myself," Ji Tianqing said through telepathy. Then, he put away the Heaven Burier sword and burst out with his fastest speed. Like a stream of light, he rushed toward the dozen or so stars ahead. Chapter 3978. The 14 planets led by the 1,000 Blue Planet had always been peaceful and peaceful. Although the trillions of living beings on the 14 planets were enslaved by the Star Master and the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord, they still had to pay for the daily necessities. Not only did they have to search for cultivation resources day and night, but they also had to worship the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord and the Sovereign statue at the beginning of every month. Not only did they have to prostrate themselves on the ground, but they also had to respectfully bow, pray, and recite scriptures for 3 days and 3 nights. In short, they had to worship the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord and the Sovereign statue devoutly. This was the only way the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord and the Sovereign statue could protect their safety. In the eyes of the living beings from other star domains, this boring and depressing life was oppressive and arduous. However, these ordinary living beings from other races had never been to other stars or seen other star domains. Therefore, although they were suffering, they didn't know how it was. Over the years, most of the living beings from other races had gotten used to this kind of life. Many of the younger living beings thought that this was how life was supposed to be. Today, the people of the 14 planets were working hard as usual. Everyone was busy. Most of them were mining, gathering herbs, planting divine grains, and so on. A few were recuperating from their injuries or cultivating in seclusion. Suddenly, countless people realized that the sky had become a dazzling white. The starlight in the sky had disappeared, and the dark void was no longer visible. They could only see the boundless white light shining from the void, obscuring everything. Ordinary living beings who hadn't become gods couldn't look directly at the terrifying white light. Their eyes were blinded, and they were bleeding. Living beings who had become gods could only vaguely see tens of thousands of light spots in the endless white light. Only experts who had reached the Divine Lord realm could see the truth of the white light. It's a meteor shower. Tens of thousands of meteors are streaking across the void. Thus, after a short while, this exciting news spread across the various stars. The ignorant living beings of other races sang and danced excitedly, cheering in surprise. This was because, in their knowledge, this was a miracle that only happened once in 1,000 years. It was because they were devout believers of the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord and the Sovereign statue that they could witness such a magnificent and dazzling miracle. Those who were able to witness a meteor shower with their own eyes would be blessed with good luck, and their wishes would come true. For a moment, the 14 stars were filled with jubilation as the common people cheered. However, the God King experts who controlled the various stars and continents panicked on the spot. Their reactions were completely different from the common people. They knew that it was not a miracle at all. It was a disaster, a catastrophe. Because these God King powerhouses all knew that the so-called meteor shower was actually an enormous meteor group. The meteors that were flying at high speed and cutting through the void were the fragments of other stars. Each meteorite contained a terrifying impact force. Often, a meteorite with a diameter of 300 meters could destroy a city. As for the asteroids in the starry sky, every single one of them was no less than 5,000 kilometers in diameter. It was obvious that once their star was struck by the group of meteors, it would surely shatter into pieces and be destroyed on the spot. What was even more terrifying was that the dazzling group of meteorites was approaching at a speed visible to the naked eye. Looking at the direction the meteorites were heading, they would definitely hit the star they were on. Therefore, all the God King experts panicked. They sent out communication jade slips as fast as they could to report the news to the Star Lords and ask for instructions on how to deal with it. At the same time, the Star Lords of the various stars were alarmed by the meteor shower. No matter what they were doing, they immediately put down what they were doing and gathered their trusted subordinates and friends to discuss how to deal with it. After a short discussion, they all came to a conclusion. In the face of this massive and cataclysmic meteor shower, nobody could do anything. Even the Star Lords of the 8th or 9th level of the God King realm were unable to stop the attack of the meteor shower. As for the Zone Master and the Paragon statue that they worshipped, they were even more useless and would never protect them. Therefore, the 14 Star Lords all gave the same order. Run! Before the meteor shower arrives, abandon the stars and run away as fast as possible. Therefore, the Star Lords, their trusted subordinates, and friends emptied the treasury as fast as they could and boarded the divine warship with the cultivation resources that they had plundered over the years. Swish! After the divine warship was activated, it soared into the sky without caring about anything and fled to the distance in a hurry. As for the billions of creatures on the stars, they couldn't do anything about it, nor could they save them. Also, all the Star Lords had guessed the result from the moment they fled. Their stars would certainly collapse under the bombardment of the meteor shower. Fortunately, they had brought their friends and trusted subordinates with them, as well as infinite cultivation resources. After the Star Lords fled, the God Kings who controlled the continents and the top forces also had a premonition that death was coming. Their reactions were the same as the Star Lords. They fled as fast as they could with their families and wealth. About 2 hours later, there was no telling who leaked the news. The citizens, who were still in a state of excitement and revelry, finally knew the truth of the matter. It turned out that the seemingly beautiful and splendid meteor shower was actually a catastrophe. Tens of thousands of meteorites were flying towards the stars that everyone relied on for survival. If a miracle didn't happen, they would be reduced to ashes along with the stars in 4 hours at most. The entire star and all the creatures would perish. Apart from the God Kings and Star Lords who had already fled, no one would be lucky enough to survive. The news spread on the stars at the speed of light. In just an hour, it had spread across the entire star. After all, the people would also use communication jade slips to contact each other. Therefore, the 14 stars fell into panic and despair. The people who had been cheering excitedly a moment ago were now extremely frightened and desperate. On every star, people could be seen fleeing in panic and chaos. Shrill cries and wails echoed in the world. The desperate and helpless people knew that they were going to die for sure, so they abandoned their fear. They cursed angrily, cursing the overlords of the continents and the Star Lords who had abandoned them. There were also some ignorant commoners who, in fear and despair, ran to worship the Domain Master and the Supreme Deity statue. They kowtowed and prayed crazily until their heads bled. They were extremely pious. Unfortunately, the statue didn't respond at all. Even the Domain Lord and the Supreme Statue that they worshipped as gods couldn't save them. The meteor shower in the void was getting closer and closer. The blazing white light in the sky also became more and more dazzling, making it impossible for people to look at it directly. Even the various stars had become a vast expanse of whiteness. Those who were weaker could no longer see anything. More than 1 trillion alien creatures could only welcome the arrival of death in despair and madness. Chapter 3979. I only have 12 hours. After a few more hours, the disaster will be over. In outer space, Ji Tianqing was teleporting at the speed of light. His figure kept flashing in the void. Every time he flashed, he would teleport millions of miles away. Originally, he would need a day to reach Thousand Blue Planet. However, he did not care about the consequences. He unleashed his strongest power and flew to Thousand Blue Planet in 6 hours. The consequence of teleporting at all costs was that his divine power was greatly depleted. His mind was also extremely tired. His divine body was in excruciating pain. His mind was also stretched to the limit. It gave him a splitting headache. When he reached Thousand Blue Planet, he did not even have time to catch his breath and heal his body before he saw a few spots of light streaking across the void near the planet. Although those spots of light were very small, Ji Tianqing was very knowledgeable. He saw the truth at a glance. It's a divine worship. A divine worship piloted by a divine king. I understand now. The divine kings on these 14 planets realized that they could not defend themselves against the meteors, so they fled on the divine worship. As he finished speaking, the voice of the burial of heaven rang in his mind. The star masters and masters of these planets are all high-level and middle-level divine kings. Of course, they could not defend themselves against the meteors. However, they abandoned the people of the entire planet and fled by themselves. This is indeed despicable. In fact, Ji Tianqing had already expected this outcome. In outer space, the ugliness and darkness of human nature were vividly displayed by many foreign race experts. It would be strange if those star masters did not flee by themselves and stay behind to be buried with the people of the entire planet. Phew! The meteor shower is about to arrive. I have to start preparing. Ji Tianqing did not care about the fleeing divine kings. He turned to look at the rapidly approaching meteors and began his preparations. While he was on his way, he had carefully observed the meteorites and the 14 stars. What comforted him was that the meteors were not horizontally. They were vertically. Almost 100,000 meteors were arranged in 100 million miles wide and 600 million miles long. They were shaped like arrows and spears that had been magnified trillions of times. As for the 14 stars behind him, they were not arranged horizontally. The azure thousand blue star was at the front, and the other 13 stars were behind it. The 14 stars were arranged in the shape of a huge cone. The spear-like meteorite swarm was about to crash into the 14 cone-like stars. The advantage of this was that the contact area between the two would not be too wide, which would reduce a lot of pressure on Ji Tianqing. If the two were to be aligned horizontally, the area of contact would be as wide as 600 million miles. Even he would be powerless to do anything about it. He would only be able to protect a portion of the stars. Ji Tianqing came up with several countermeasures. The first plan was to unleash his full power and use the power of the 3 supreme-grade deity artifacts to build a barrier that was 100 million miles wide. He used this barrier to protect the 14 stars and block most of the meteorites. There were still some meteorites that couldn't be stopped, but they wouldn't collide with the 14 stars. They would brush past the edges of the stars and rush deeper into the void. As for the second plan, he would take the initiative to attack and use the 3 supreme-grade divine artifacts to destroy each meteor. This was safer and could completely resolve the meteorite swarm. However, it would cost too much effort and energy, and the risk was too great. As for the third plan, he would use the power of the supreme-grade king-level deity artifacts and the power of the surrounding stars to move the 14 stars away. As long as he moved the 14 stars away and made way for the meteorite swarm, the crisis would naturally be resolved. However, this plan consumed too much energy and took too long. There was no time at all. If he could prepare a month in advance, it wouldn't be a problem. As for how to deal with it, let's see how strong the impact of those meteorites is first. Anyway, the meteorite belt is 600 million miles long, and there is a gap between each meteorite. I have enough time to deal with it. After thinking about it, Ji Tianqing decided to adapt to the situation. He first took a few king-grade divine pills to regulate his divine soul and divine power. After his divine power calmed down, he took out the 3 supreme-grade king-level deity artifacts. Swish! 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 A pitch-black chaos primordial bell floated to his left. A divine hammer surrounded by 5-colored lightning was held in his right hand. As for Patriarch Qiong Qi's indestructible golden body, it had already merged with his body and was shining with a hazy golden light to protect his body. In addition, Ji Tianqing's mind was also connected to the heaven-mending pearl and the Jiutian 10 Absolutes Tower. If necessary, he could use these 2 supreme-grade deity artifacts to resolve the crisis at any time. In short, he didn't dare to say whether he could block the meteorite swarm and protect the 14 stars. However, he would definitely not be killed by the meteorite swarm. In just half an hour, the dazzling white meteor shower drowned Ji Tianqing's figure. The first meteorite finally arrived and blasted toward him. This meteorite had been burning for an unknown period of time. Its impurities had long been removed and it had become a sparkling and translucent crystal. This star crystal was more than 10,000 miles in diameter. It burned with a blazing white star flame and had the power to destroy heaven and earth. Ji Tianqing gripped the divine hammer with a serious expression and adjusted himself to the best state. When the star crystal was 30,000 miles away from him, he shouted angrily and smashed the divine hammer with both hands. Boom! A dazzling purple lightning pillar that was hundreds of miles long collided with the star crystal, causing an earth-shattering boom that reverberated in the void. The divine hammer was unharmed and the purple lightning pillar collapsed on the spot, turning into billions of electric arcs and dissipating in the sky. However, the crystal, which was more than 10,000 miles in diameter and could destroy the heaven and the earth, was also shattered into pieces. Hundreds of pieces splashed out. The crystal-like shards flew in the void for another several million miles before coming to a stop, dragging long white tails of flame behind them. They had used up their momentum and there was no new power to drive them, so they floated in the sky and lost their threat. Luckily, the impact of these meteorites is similar to what I expected. After easily destroying the first meteorite, Ji Tianqing's furrowed brows relaxed as he felt much more at ease. Even though he had only used a bit of his divine power, 1/10,000th of his power, to destroy a meteorite. However, he didn't dare to let his guard down and he wouldn't be careless. He knew that there were still tens of thousands of meteorites waiting for him. If he couldn't use his divine power properly, he would probably use up all his power after destroying 10,000 meteorites. After a while, the second meteorite arrived. This meteorite was bigger and had a diameter of more than 50,000 miles. Also, the meteorite burning with white flames didn't have a regular shape. It looked like a huge rock with a dark brown surface. However, this meteorite wasn't coming toward him. It was coming from the left, 100 million miles away from Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing estimated that this meteorite wouldn't hit Qianlan planet, but after flying a few 100 million miles, it might hit the star at the back. Therefore, he controlled the chaotic primordial bell and made it hit the meteorite as fast as it could. Chapter 3980. Ji Tianqing stayed where he was. The primordial chaos bell was like a stream of light as it crashed into the meteorite from the side. 1,000 years ago, he had tried to control his natal divine artifact in the void. He could control the sword tens of millions of kilometers away. The primordial chaos bell had been refined by him for many years. Now, it had become one of his natal divine artifacts and could unleash 120% of its power. In other words, he could control the divine bell to fly tens of millions of kilometers away while standing still. Even though the meteorite was still 100 million kilometers away from him. The meteorite was flying diagonally and was only 70 million kilometers away from him. What he needed to do was to calculate the angle and timing of the meteorite's flight, as well as the God clock's angle and timing. This had to be very accurate. There could not be any mistakes. If the angle was wrong or the divine bell's speed was too slow, it would be impossible for it to hit the meteorite. It would only brush past it. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing's mind was very strong, and his calculations were accurate. After the primordial chaos bell flew 70 million kilometers, it crashed into the huge meteorite. Even though the meteorite was very large and the impact was very strong. After the primordial chaos bell flew 70 million kilometers away, its connection with his mind was very weak. It could only unleash 70% to 80% of its power. However, he controlled the divine bell to become tens of thousands of kilometers wide and crashed into the meteorite from the side. Therefore, his plan was very successful. Boom! Crack! Amidst the earth-shattering sound, a huge gap was created in the meteorite. Dense cracks appeared and thousands of pieces of debris splattered out. The meteorite did not collapse and disintegrate. However, more than half of its impact was offset, and it deviated from its original flight trajectory and flew into the depths of the void. Its speed was reduced by half and it would not hit the 14 stars. In the end, it would hit the waste stars in the depths of the void and turn into fragments floating in the void. Ji Tianqing also dealt with the second meteorite. The primordial chaos bell returned as fast as a stream of light. Then, the third meteorite whistled over. This meteorite was on the right side of Ji Tianqing, more than 50 million kilometers away from him. If he did not block this meteorite, it would fly another 300 million kilometers and hit the seventh star behind Ji Tianqing. However, the primordial chaos bell was still on the left side. It was too late to return to Ji Tianqing's side. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing used the same trick again. After calculating the trajectory and speed of the meteorite, he threw the thunder god hammer over. Under the control of his mind, the divine hammer cut through the void like a five-colored thunderbolt and smashed toward the right. When the godly hammer flew more than 50 million miles, it just happened to converge with the meteorite and collided violently. Boom! With an earth-shattering boom, the meteorite with a diameter of tens of thousands of miles was smashed to pieces by the mountain-like divine hammer. The meteor shattered into thousands of pieces and scattered in the void. Compared to the primordial chaos bell, the thunderclap hammer's attack power was obviously stronger. After all, the focus of these two supreme-grade divine artifacts was different. One had a strong defense, while the other had a violent power. Ji Tianqing easily dealt with the meteorite on the right and looked ahead. At this time, the fourth and fifth meteorites came one after another. He found that many of the following meteorites, 30% of them came from the front and 70% came from the left and right. Seeing this situation, he didn't take back the primordial chaos bell and the thunder god hammer. Instead, he let the two divine artifacts stay in the void on the left and right. The primordial chaos bell was 50 million miles to his left and the thunder god hammer was 50 million miles to his right. Whenever there were meteorites coming from the left and right, he would control the divine bell and the divine hammer to destroy those meteorites. As for those meteorites that came from the front, he relied on the invincible defense of the indestructible golden body and swung the burial of heaven sword to destroy them. Boom! Boom! Bang! Bang, bang. As time passed, one after another, huge meteorites were destroyed by Ji Tianqing and turned into countless pieces in the void. The meteorites were getting denser and denser. It was overwhelming. Ji Tianqing gradually had no time to rest. He had to do three things at once and go all out. He waved his sword to block the meteorites in front of him and at the same time controlled the two supreme-grade divine artifacts to block the meteorites on the left and right. Fortunately, he didn't block all the meteorites. Instead, he selectively destroyed the meteorites that threatened the 14 stars. Even so, the number of meteorites that he had to block and intercept was as many as 70 to 80,000. 2 hours passed. Ji Tianqing blocked more than 10,000 meteorites in succession. His face was pale and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. His expression was solemn and his eyes were clear and focused. He didn't dare to be distracted at all. Although he had used up a lot of divine power and only had half of it left, his mind was tired. But he held on with his strong willpower and took out king-level divine elixirs one after another to quickly replenish his divine power. Just like this, he was tired and worried. Another 4 hours passed. More than 30,000 meteorites were intercepted by him. At this time, his face was as pale as paper. He was sweating all over and his hands were trembling. Even if he kept taking divine elixirs, it was difficult to replenish the divine power that he had used up. Now, he only had 30% of his power left. Most importantly, his mind was exhausted to the extreme, and even his soul had become extremely weak. He had a splitting headache. His eyes became blurry and his breathing was chaotic. Intercepting more than 40,000 meteorites consecutively was already beyond his ability. Now, he could still grit his teeth and hold on because of his strong willpower and belief, as well as his extremely deep potential. No matter if it was in his previous life or this life, this was the first time he intercepted such a huge group of meteorites. It was no exaggeration to say that this was not something that a peak divine king could do. No peak divine king would be like him, intercepting the entire group of meteorites by himself. Almost everyone would choose to avoid the attack, retreat and hide. Seeing that he was extremely weak and still holding on bitterly, Burial of Heaven couldn't help but roar, "Don't force yourself anymore. If you continue, you will be seriously injured and even die. You have already sacrificed enough for the trillions of living beings. Give up." In fact, Burial of Heaven had been intercepting the meteorites that were attacking him head-on. It wasn't a supreme-grade divine weapon. It was only a king-level upper-grade divine sword. Ji Tianqing had used it to destroy more than 10,000 meteorites. In fact, it was also injured. The blade was full of cracks and gaps. At this time, it was also in a weak state. Its power was not as strong as before. Ji Tianqing still didn't retreat. He roared in a low and hoarse voice, "A man who walks 100 steps is halfway to 90. Although I have intercepted more than 40,000 meteorites, I have only passed half of the group of meteorites. There are still more than 40,000 meteorites coming. Among them, more than 30,000 meteorites will definitely hit those 14 stars. Those stars and trillions of living beings will still be destroyed. If I give up now, then all my previous efforts will be in vain." Chapter 3981. But you've already used up all your power. You'll die if you last another 6 hours. The Burial of Heaven roared anxiously. All along, as the Sword Soul, it had always been very calm and taciturn at all times. Even its words were cold and emotionless. But today, it was unexpectedly more talkative, and it even had emotions. "It's okay. I have a supreme-grade divine artifact protecting me. I won't die. At most, I'll use up all my divine power and enter a weak state." Ji Tianqing shook his head and continued to swing his sword to block the incoming meteors. If it was before, he could cut this meteor with a diameter of 20,000 miles with one strike. But now, he could only cut it in half and neutralize most of the impact. The two halves of the meteor were still as fast as lightning. It brushed past him and crashed into Thousand Blue Planet behind him. Boom! Boom! In just a few dozen breaths, the two halves of the meteors hit Thousand Blue Planet's spatial barrier. Instantly, two huge holes appeared on the blue barrier on the surface of Thousand Blue Planet. Countless shards of divine light flew out. The two meteors fell on Thousand Blue Planet. One destroyed millions of miles of mountains and forests. The other crashed into the vast sea and created a huge whirlpool of 50,000 miles wide. Huge waves tens of thousands of feet high swept across millions of miles. Several countries and hundreds of cities by the sea were swallowed by the shocking tsunami. Millions of beings were killed on the spot. Ji Tianqing only glanced at Thousand Blue Planet's situation. He didn't observe it closely. A hint of seriousness flashed through his eyes. He continued to focus on the meteors in front of him. He controlled the two supreme-grade divine artifacts to block more meteors. His divine power was about to run out. He could only absorb the power of the five elemental world to quickly replenish himself. As time passed, his condition and combat power quickly recovered. Even so, the five elemental world couldn't replenish his divine power as fast as he used it. He had no choice but to absorb the power of the heaven-mending orb. With the power of the five elemental world and the heaven-mending orb, he lasted another 4 hours. However, the power he used to replenish the five elemental world was basically used up this time. The originally flourishing and rapidly expanding world of 5 elements had become stagnant and calm like a pool of stagnant water. Even the brilliance of the heaven-mending pearl was not as dazzling as before. It was slightly dimmer. In these 4 hours, he intercepted another 30,000 meteorites. More and more meteors could only helplessly give up and watch as they rushed into the depths of the void and crashed into the waste stars. One after another, the useless stars were blasted into smithereens, erupting into a terrifying starstorm that affected 14 stars. There were also many meteorites that Ji Tianqing was unable to destroy. He only managed to cut them in half and neutralized the huge impact. The shattered meteors flew past him and hit Thousand Blue Star and a few other stars. Many holes and craters appeared in the spatial barriers of the stars. Meteors with flaming tails fell like meteors, causing great disasters on those planets. Tens of millions of miles of mountains and rivers were turned into ruins. Countless cities and kingdoms were destroyed, burned into scorched earth. Hundreds of millions of non-humankind beings had been killed by the impact of the meteors. In the distorted space-time, Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Ji Wushuang, and the others had already finished their cultivation. They gathered together and stood on the jade platform under the sacred tree, using their divine abilities to watch the scene in the void. When they saw that Ji Tianqing was completely drenched, his hair was disheveled, and he was extremely weak, but he was still tenaciously holding on, their eyes became blurry. Ji Tianqing risked his life and blocked the meteors without caring about anything, just to save trillions of people he did not know. This caused everyone to be deeply shocked, respectful, and impressed. Especially Chao Qingyu, Lan, Yang, Baifeng, and the others. Their emotions were very complicated. Young Master is actually willing to risk his life and save more than a dozen stars for the outsiders who are completely unrelated to him. Such breadth of mind and feelings is truly rare in the world, noble and unparalleled. In the past, I always thought that the stronger a god is, the more emotionless and selfish they are. However, young Master used his actions to prove that the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Mortals always believe in gods devoutly and pray that gods can protect them. However, too many gods are selfish and indifferent, not worthy of belief and respect at all. Only a god like young Master is worthy of the worship and reverence of billions of people. I can only use one word to describe young Master's actions: great. Although we are weak and can't help young Master, we can't even block a meteor. However, I feel that we can't stand by and do nothing anymore. We also have to help young Master. While everyone was discussing with emotion, Wushuang's face was also full of tears. She clenched her fists and was extremely worried for her father. Mother, why is father so foolish? Those outsiders don't even know him and are not related to him. Why would he risk his life to save them? Ji Wushuang hugged Yun Yao's arm and begged her mother to let her father give up. She did not care if those stars and outsiders would be destroyed because of this. She only cared about her father's safety. She did not want to see her father in such a sorry state, nor did she want to see her father injured. Yun Yao stared at the light screen in front of her. She looked at the vast void and Ji Tianqing's sorry figure. Her eyes were also covered with a layer of mist, and her heart was in her throat. However, she could still maintain her calm and said earnestly, "Wushuang, your father was never an ordinary person. He was different. He carried the mission of reviving the human race and also the mission of saving the Dragon Realm and the 5 Elements world. Since he recovered to the Divine King Realm, everything he did was to save the world. In his eyes, the outsiders might be ignorant and uncivilized, but they are also living beings under the heavenly Tao. He has the ability to turn the tide and save the world, so he can't just stand by and watch them die. His love and selflessness is something that no divine king can compare to." Ji Wushuang nodded as if she understood and said, "Although I also know that father is great, I really don't want to see him injured. Also, doing this will only put his life in danger. There are no benefits at all. Ji Ku held Wushuang's hand and patted her shoulder. He comforted her and said, Wushuang, with your father's current strength, he doesn't care about any benefits. Also, other than the heavens, I'm afraid no one has the right to give him any benefits or rewards. We humans have an old saying, the heavens are watching what people do. You have to believe that the heavens have eyes. What your father did was a great achievement in saving the world. The heavens will definitely reward him with great merit. Ji Wushuang frowned and asked, the heavenly Tao will remember father's achievements and reward him with merit? But what kind of reward is merit? Ji Ku revealed a faint smile and explained, merit is something that can't be explained or explained clearly. But directly speaking, it should be the Tao and the power of the heavenly Tao. Chapter 3982. After hearing Ji Ku's words of comfort, Ji Wushuang felt a little better. She was not an expert or a wise person. She was just a 13-year-old girl, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao's daughter. Therefore, she did not have any noble and selfless feelings. She only had the most sincere feelings for her parents. If she had to choose between her father and the billions of living beings, she would choose her father without a doubt. However, if her father decided to do something, even if it meant risking his life, as long as he thought it was worth it and could be recognized and rewarded by the heavenly Tao, she would feel much better. At that moment, Yang, Chao Qingyu, Bai Feng, and the others all suggested that they would help Ji Tianqing. Yun Yao and Ji Ku looked at each other and nodded in agreement without hesitation. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the next instant, everyone flew out of the distorted spacetime and appeared behind Ji Tianqing in the void. Not only did Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Ji Wushuang, White Dragon, Chao Qingyu, Yang, and Bai Feng appear, but even Qianyu, Black Dragon, Lin Shui, and the Blood Illusion God King appeared. Everyone who had followed Ji Tianqing, including those who had reached the God King realm, stood out. Ji Tianqing had just destroyed a meteorite with his divine hammer when he suddenly realized that everyone had appeared behind him. He immediately looked anxious. What are you doing here? It's too dangerous here. Go back. Although everyone was a God King, most of them were mid-level or low-level God Kings. If they were hit by a meteorite, even if they did not die, they would be severely injured. How could Ji Tianqing not be anxious? White Dragon was very emotional. He shouted excitedly, Master, we can't let you fight alone. We're with you. We want to fight alongside you. Nonsense. Ji Tianqing scolded angrily. Those meteorites are star cores and star fragments. Any one of them can severely injure you. Go back to the Divine Pagoda and stay there. Everyone understood that he had good intentions. Seeing that he was angry, no one dared to say anything. At this moment, Yun Yao looked at him gently and explained, Tianqing, of course we can't stop those meteorites. However, your divine power has been exhausted and you are too weak. Everyone is worried about your safety. Therefore, we will work together to channel divine power to you and help you persevere. We all believe in you. As long as you haven't fallen, we will be safe. Ji Ku, Bai Long, Ji Wushuang, and the others quickly nodded in agreement. This. Ji Tianqing hesitated for a moment. He didn't dare to delay or be distracted, so he quickly nodded and agreed. All right, then all of you stand behind me. Don't act rashly. Having received his approval, everyone was overjoyed and their spirits were lifted. Qian Yu snickered. She squinted her eyes and said to Black Dragon, Did you see that? Yao Yao's words are always effective. The first wife is just different. Black Dragon blinked and sent a voice transmission, according to the human world, shouldn't Yun Yao and Ji Ku be called first wife and second wife? While the two of them were still muttering, everyone had already consciously arranged themselves into a formation. Yun Yao was at the front, followed by Ji Ku. Behind them were Lan, Ji Wushuang, Bai Long, and the others. Everyone worked together to release their divine power. After passing through layers of transmission, Yun Yao sent it into Ji Tianqing's body. Originally, Ji Tianqing was exhausted and his divine power was empty. Now that he had received everyone's divine power, he was immediately invigorated and his divine power became much more abundant. He focused on controlling the divine weapon and swung the Kenshin sword to block one meteorite after another. At this moment, the meteor shower had already reached its end. There were only about 16,000 meteorites left. As long as they could hold on for another 2 hours, the meteor shower would be gone. Ji Tianqing didn't dare to be careless. He focused all of his attention on dealing with the meteorites. Their unity was like an impregnable fortress. As they worked together, their efficiency was greatly increased. One meteorite after another was shattered into pieces by him and fell into the void. Only a few meteorites were abandoned and rushed into the depths of the void, smashing into many useless stars. As a result, loud bangs continuously erupted in the void hundreds of millions of miles away. Those shattered star fragments carried a terrifying force and bombarded a few stars. The spatial barriers of those stars were riddled with holes, and divine light flickered chaotically. The mountains and earth on the stars were also destroyed into ruins. Countless cities and divine kingdoms were destroyed. However, compared to the destruction of the entire star, the deaths of the tens of millions of aliens were not worth mentioning. As time passed, Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and the others used up too much of their divine power and became weaker and weaker. However, everyone was infected by Ji Tianqing's aura and persevered with their strong willpower. From beginning to end, no one complained about being tired, and no one thought of giving up. After following Ji Tianqing for so many years, they had learned a lot. Not only their experience and knowledge in cultivation, but also their willpower, perseverance, and persistence. Finally, 2 hours later, the meteor shower was over. When the last meteorite was shattered by Ji Tianqing's sword, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Everyone's hair and clothes were drenched in sweat. They looked very tired and weary. However, no one complained or complained. Everyone's spirits were lifted, and their faces were filled with pride and pride. Ha ha ha. We did it. To be able to fight side by side with young master and save more than 10 worlds, we are proud of you. Although we were fighting for strange creatures, this was a great battle. I feel that my divine soul and character have been elevated. From now on, I am also a noble expert who has saved a world. Everyone was full of smiles and high fives in celebration. Even the weakest and most disheveled Ji Tianqing squeezed out a smile on his pale face. He turned back to look at everyone and pointed at the dozens of stars that were full of holes. Although those stars are still injured, and those aliens still have a lot of casualties, we managed to avert a crisis. However, we have successfully averted a calamity and saved more than a dozen worlds. The heavens have eyes. This is an undeniable achievement, and also a great merit. Although no one can obtain any substantial benefits, I believe that your views and thoughts will be broader. In the future, when you become peak divine kings, you will also be able to comprehend the Tao faster and control the power of the heavenly Tao. In fact, this was part of the reason why Ji Tianqing decided to save more than 10 stars. Previously, he forced a few people to swear the heavenly Tao oath, and they were all recognized by the heavenly Tao. This made him very sure that the heavenly Tao did exist, and it was watching over all living beings at all times. Therefore, he wanted to save more than 10 worlds and make a shocking achievement. Even if he could not obtain the heavenly Tao merit, at least he could comprehend the Tao faster and control the power of the heavenly Tao. Of course, this was just a guess and a test. He could not be sure. Just as he finished speaking, a series of muffled thunder sounded in the void without any warning. In the next instant, more than 10 sacred golden light pillars descended from the void. Swoosh! 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 Everyone, who was immersed in excitement and pride, was engulfed by the sacred golden light before they could react. Not only Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and the others, but even the burial of heaven was engulfed by a thick light pillar. Everyone's empty divine power immediately recovered at an unbelievable speed. Moreover, all kinds of enlightenment appeared in everyone's mind. Their talent, comprehension, aptitude, and strength had all improved significantly. Chapter 3983. Such a miraculous change stunned everyone. One had to know that everyone's talent, perception, and aptitude were fixed. Only an extremely small number of heaven and earth treasures could increase a cultivator's attributes. Therefore, after everyone was enveloped by the sacred golden light, their talent and perception skyrocketed, and they could not react in time. After a while, everyone finally came back to their senses and cheered in surprise. Ji Ku shouted excitedly, "Big Brother Tianqing is right. We have made great contributions and have indeed been rewarded by the heavenly Tao. This is the power of merit from the heavenly Tao." Only then did everyone come to a realization. They were overjoyed and excited. "Oh my God! We have actually been rewarded by the heavenly Tao. Young Master was right. We have been recognized by the heavenly Tao. What a miraculous power of merit! Not only did it save me 100 years of hard work, but it also increased my talent and aptitude. Such a great opportunity is definitely not something that can be exchanged for hundreds of billions of cultivation resources." Everyone was immersed in excitement and ecstasy. Only Ji Wushuang kept staring at his exhausted father and asked in shock, "Father, you have put in the most effort and made the most contributions. Why didn't you receive the heavenly Tao's reward?" Hearing that, everyone was stunned and turned to look at Ji Tianqing. As expected, everyone was enveloped by the sacred golden light. Even the sword of the burial of heaven was no exception. Only Ji Tianqing's surroundings were very calm. There was no power of merit at all. It seemed that not only did he not receive the heavenly Tao's reward, but he had also been neglected and forgotten. Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and the others all had puzzled looks on their faces. They were all puzzled. How could this be? Tianqing is clearly the greatest contributor. Why didn't the heavenly Tao bestow him with the power of merit? This shouldn't be. All living beings are under the watch of the heavenly Tao, and the heavenly Tao is absolutely fair and selfless. Why would it miss him? Something must have gone wrong somewhere. Maybe it's because young master's contributions are too great that the heavenly Tao wants to give him the grandest reward. Yes. That's most likely. In the eyes of everyone, they had only helped a little and obtained the power of merit bestowed by the heavenly Tao. With the impartiality of the heavenly Tao, it would definitely give Ji Tianqing the greatest reward. In fact, it was not only the power of virtue that was given to him, but there were also other rewards. Thinking of this possibility, everyone waited for Ji Tianqing to receive the reward while being baptized by the power of merit. Unfortunately, an hour had passed. Everyone had refined their own power of virtue and recovered to their peak condition. Their strength had also increased. However, there was still no movement on Ji Tianqing's side. There was no divine golden light, and there was no sign of the heavenly Tao. At this moment, everyone had no choice but to confirm that Ji Tianqing had indeed been forgotten by the heavenly Tao. How could this be? Isn't the heavenly Tao the most just and selfless? How could I have missed Big Brother Tianqing? Master, do you feel any abnormalities? Or did the heavenly Tao give you any rewards? Everyone felt indignant for Ji Tianqing and asked him about the situation. Ji Tianqing was also very puzzled. However, he was afraid that everyone would be worried, so he comforted them with a calm expression. Don't worry, everyone. The heavenly Tao is naturally impartial. The reward it gave me is just different from yours. Everyone was skeptical. Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and Ji Wushuang were still a little indignant and felt deeply regretful. Ji Tianqing took out the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes Pagoda and said, "All right, everyone, don't let your imagination run wild. quickly return to the pagoda and cultivate in seclusion. The benefits that the power of merit brought to you are far more than this. You have to seriously cultivate in seclusion for a few years and properly digest the benefits brought by the power of merit. Seeing that the void had returned to calm and that there was no danger ahead, everyone entered the distorted spacetime one after another to cultivate in seclusion. Yun Yao and Ji Ko were the last to enter the pagoda. Before leaving, the two of them carefully reminded Ji Tianqing. Tianqing, your strength is now empty, and you are also injured. Quickly follow us to the pagoda to recuperate. Big brother Tianqing, the calamity has been resolved. You don't have to worry about the alien creatures on the dozen or so planets. First, heal your injuries. Ji Tianqing nodded to show that he understood. After comforting them for a while, they entered the pagoda. In the void, only Ji Tianqing and the sword of burial of heaven were left. The primordial chaos bell and the thunder hammer had already flown back to his side and were stored in his body. He forcefully supported his weak body and sat cross-legged in the void. He placed the sword of burial of heaven in front of his knees and took out a large number of divine pills to consume. As he consumed the divine pills to recover his strength, he discussed this matter with the sword of burial of heaven. Although I didn't explain it to you before, when I decided to intercept the meteorites and save the dozen or so planets, I had this idea in mind. I wanted to use this opportunity to see if the heavenly Tao would reward me or let me condense the Tao runes in advance. Facts have proven that I succeeded. I have made such a great contribution and will indeed be rewarded by the heavenly Tao. However, why can even you be rewarded with the power of merit by the heavenly Tao, but I don't have any? The sword of burial of heaven knew that although he looked calm on the surface, he was actually very depressed. However, the sword of burial of heaven did not know how to explain to him. He could only say in a low voice, "This matter is indeed very strange. If even you can't figure it out, I can't understand it either. Even if I fought side by side with you, intercepted the meteorites, and saved trillions of lives, I am still a sword spirit after all. But I'm just a sword soul, so how could I be rewarded by the heavenly Tao? Could it be that the heavenly Tao has judged me as a living creature?" Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he nodded and said, "That should be the case." The primordial chaos bell and the divine hammer also participated in intercepting the meteorites. However, they don't have weapon spirits, so they didn't receive the heavenly Tao's reward. But why can't I get the power of merit? Why can't I comprehend the power of the heavenly Tao and the Tao runes? I took such a huge risk, and it was all for nothing. The sword of burial of heaven tried to analyze, could it be that the heavenly Tao has left you out? Or rather, you once interfered with the power of the heavenly Tao and reincarnated with the memory of your soul. So, you have been excluded by the heavenly Tao. In his previous life, Kenshin was one of the best among the peak divine kings. He had already mastered a trace of the power of the heavenly Tao. Before he died, he used the heaven punishment array to interfere with the heavenly Tao's reincarnation. Therefore, he could reincarnate with the memory of his soul under the protection of the heaven punishment array. Hearing the sword of burial of heaven's reminder, he nodded slightly and said, "Your analysis is somewhat reasonable. Perhaps this is the reason." No. Just as he was about to nod and confirm this answer, he suddenly remembered something. Ku's situation is similar to mine. Back then, I interfered with the power of the heavenly Tao and used the heavenly star chain to protect a remnant of her soul to reincarnate in the human world. If the heavenly Tao has left me out, then she should also be excluded. However, you also saw it just now. She also received the power of merit. This time, even the sword of burial of heaven was confused and speechless. Ji Tianqing guessed many possibilities, but he could only deny them. In short, this matter became a mystery. Chapter 3984. Alright, I can't figure this out for now, but there will be an answer in the future. You're too weak right now, and you're still injured. Treat your injuries first. Seeing that Ji Tianqing was still confused and trying to figure out the answer, the Burial of Heaven hurriedly sent him a message. Ji Tianqing thought for a long time but couldn't figure it out. He could only put this problem aside for now and think about it later. He entered the sword world and returned to the distorted space to treat his injuries. His injuries weren't caused by the meteors. He had used up all of his divine power and overused his potential, body, and mind. He had injured himself. Although his injuries weren't serious, they had damaged his divine path foundation. He would have to recuperate for at least a few years before he could recover. Fortunately, he had more than 1 trillion worth of cultivation resources in his hands. When he was in seclusion to treat his injuries, he didn't lack cultivation resources or divine pills. The Burial of Heaven flew alone in the void towards the dozen or so stars to check the situation. 12 hours later, the Burial of Heaven entered the closest star, Thousand Blue Star. Of the 14 stars, Thousand Blue Star was at the front and bore the brunt of the attack. If Ji Tianqing hadn't stopped the meteors, Thousand Blue Star would have been the first to be destroyed. Although Thousand Blue Star had survived, the surface of the star was full of holes. The meteor fragments had pierced through many holes. The Burial of Heaven circled half of Thousand Blue Star and saw countless ruins and scorched earth. It made a rough estimate. At least 1,000 cities and 700 to 800 million foreign beings had died under the meteor fragments. The surroundings of the ruins and scorched earth could be said to be filled with wails. It was unknown how many foreign race creatures were crying and wailing. But this was only the minority. Compared to the entire Thousand Blue Star, less than 1% of the foreign beings had died. 99% of the foreign beings saw that the void had calmed down and the meteor shower had disappeared. They were overjoyed. Countless people cheered in high spirits, shouting and roaring with all their might, venting the surprise and excitement in their hearts. Although they didn't know how the apocalyptic calamity had disappeared, they were lucky enough to survive. However, they were extremely lucky to have survived. It was worth celebrating for 7 days and 7 nights. Countless non-humankind creatures danced and sang, expressing their excitement. At the same time, many outsiders swarmed towards the statues of the realm masters and paragon deities in the cities like Tidewater. They prostrated themselves on the ground and worshipped the 2 statues, chanting some strange scriptures. In these creatures' eyes, the reason why the world-ending calamity disappeared was because the Domain Lord and Supreme Deity statue had appeared, protecting them and helping them neutralize the calamity. After this incident, their worship of the Heavenly Sun Protectorate Master and the Paragon statue would become even more pious and unswerving. The Burial of Heaven could clearly sense the fanatical, invisible divine power of faith being released from the bodies of the billions of believers. It was like a trickling river that converged into a river and poured into the 2 statues. For a time, the Domain Lords and Supreme God statues in countless cities became dazzling with golden light. Those who didn't know better might actually think that the Domain Lord and Supreme Deity statue had appeared and released their divine light. The Burial of Heaven looked on coldly and disdainfully. It only had 2 words to evaluate the outsiders. Ignorant. That was the reaction of the outsiders on Thousand Blue Planet. The Burial of Heaven couldn't be bothered to look at them and quickly left. Next, it traveled through the void and checked on a few other stars. The planets behind the Thousand Blue Planet were also damaged to varying degrees. Many holes had been punched through the surface of those stars by the meteors and star fragments. Hundreds of millions of people had died on each planet. Many mountains, rivers, and cities had been destroyed. However, compared to Thousand Blue Planet, the casualties on those planets were even smaller. The non-humankind beings on these planets had the same reaction. Seeing that the void had returned to normal and the meteor shower had disappeared, everyone danced, shouted, and danced in excitement. At the same time, many believers of the Domain Lord and Supreme Deity statue madly worshipped the 2 statues to express their gratitude. The Domain Lord and Supreme Deity statue had protected them and helped them resolve the apocalypse. It made them even more loyal and devout. For half a month, Buried Heaven checked the 7 stars and found that the situation was more or less the same. It was a bit tired and couldn't be bothered to check on the other 7 planets. It used to be cold and indifferent to those ignorant non-humankind creatures. But now, not only did it feel contempt, it even felt a bit disgusted. It felt bad for Ji Tianqing. If it could turn back time, it would definitely try its best to persuade Ji Tianqing not to save those ignorant people. After all, those people were too ignorant. Also, Ji Tianqing didn't receive the Heavenly Tao's reward. Half a month had passed in the outside world. Ji Tianqing had been in seclusion in the distorted spacetime for 2 years to heal his injuries. His injuries hadn't healed yet, but he had recovered 80% of his strength and was fine. The Burial of Heaven woke him up with a telepathic message and reported the situation to him. You asked me to check the situation of each planet. I've already checked 7 planets. The situation of each planet is similar. There are only a few casualties. Most people are excited and happy. After reporting the situation of each world, the Burial of Heaven said, if your injuries are not serious, I suggest you come to the void to take a look. Although the Heavenly Tao didn't reward you, the star cores and star debris in the void are also a huge fortune. Ji Tianqing quickly ended his seclusion to heal his injuries and replied with a smile, I've thought about this problem before. It's just that I was weak at that time and it wasn't suitable for me to refine those things. Now that my injuries are not serious, let's search for the spoils of war first. With that, he flew out of the sword world and into the void. Standing in the void, he looked around and saw that in the void within a radius of 1 billion miles, apart from the 14 planets, there were densely packed star cores and star debris. There were at least a few million pieces of star cores and star debris of different sizes floating quietly in the void, flickering with various colors of light. 80% of those star cores and star debris were meteorites that he had destroyed. The other 20% were formed after meteorites crashed into other abandoned planets. Although only half of the millions of star debris were precious resources and treasures, the other half were not very valuable. But this was already an immeasurable amount of wealth. Ji Tianqing smiled and said excitedly, there are so many star cores and star debris. If I were to refine them one by one, I'm afraid I'll be delayed here for a few hundred years. Forget it, I'll put these things away first and slowly refine them in the future. Therefore, he sped through the void and constantly used his capturing ability to grab star cores and star debris one after another and put them into his spatial ring. The size of each star core and star debris was different. The large ones were 30 to 40,000 miles in diameter, while the small ones were only a few hundred miles in diameter. He ignored those that contained less star power, ores, and metals and only picked the more valuable ones. Chapter 3985. After an entire month, Ji Tianqing finally finished cleaning up the battlefield. He had collected nearly 2 million precious star cores, crystals, and debris of the stars. His space ring had long been refined to a superior grade king level. The internal space of the ring was a few million miles wide. He didn't know how many resources and treasures it could hold. Even so, his space ring was still filled to the brim. The other 400,000 plus star cores and debris of the stars were stored in the internal space of the primordial chaos bell. After plundering the spoils of war, the void within a few 100 million miles was obviously much thinner. Although there were still more than 2 million debris floating in the void. But with the passage of time, perhaps in a few decades, those fragments would drift away. Of course, if the godly kings of the other races on the 14 stars entered the void to pick up treasures, they would also be able to obtain a large number of debris. However, those debris of the stars were slightly less valuable. Ji Tianqing didn't care about them. Next, Ji Tianqing returned to the sword world and began to distribute the star cores, crystals, and debris. The burial of Heaven sword continued its journey in the void, heading deep into the heavenly sun-star zone. Its target was the blazing sun star, the star where the heavenly sun-star zone ruler was. In the distorted spacetime, Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged under the bloody flame sacred tree and began to count the spoils of war. There were nearly 2 million pieces of debris of the stars, all of which had different grades and values. Ji Tianqing pondered. If he were to devour and refine these debris of the stars, it would take him thousands of years to finish refining them. Even with Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and the others, it would still take him thousands of years. After thinking about it, he decided to choose a portion of the less valuable and less precious debris of the stars to cultivate the five-element world and replenish the power of the heaven-mending pearl. After all, he had absorbed the power of the five-element world and the heaven-mending pearl when he was fighting against the meteorites. 3 days later, Ji Tianqing selected 1.5 million pieces of debris of the stars and gave them to the heaven-mending pearl to devour. After the heaven-mending pearl devoured the debris of the stars, they would become pure star power and divine power. Half of it would be used to strengthen the heaven-mending pearl, and the other half would be transferred to the five-element world. The internal space of the heaven-mending pearl was very large and could accommodate the entire five elements world. Ji Tianqing stuffed the 1.5 million pieces of the debris of the stars into the heaven-mending orb and let it slowly devour them. Although it devoured the debris of the stars at an extremely fast speed, it was still able to devour the debris of the stars. However, Ji Tianqing estimated that it would take at least 100 years to digest all the debris of the stars. As a result, the heaven-mending pearl once again lit up with a dense white light. It became dazzling, and its strength was also rapidly recovering. The five elements world was once again engulfed in a divine power storm. The entire world began to rapidly expand and strengthen. Batch after batch of living beings grew up, and batch after batch of geniuses and gods were born. As the elemental world rapidly grew and became stronger, Ji Tianqing sensed that his strength was also steadily increasing. He didn't stay idle either. He focused on using the devouring divine ability to refine those precious star cores and star crystals. The star core and star crystal were the origin of a star. They were also the condensed essence of a star. Not only did they contain the purest star power, but they also contained divine power of various attributes, as well as high-quality metals and ores. Ji Tianqing refined those star cores and crystals. Not only did his strength increase exponentially, but he also condensed more divine Tao laws. All in all, the value and effect of star cores and star crystals far exceeded that of high-grade king-grade divine pills. Ji Tianqing's harvest this time could no longer be measured by the number of divine stones. Even trillions of divine stones couldn't be exchanged for 2 million pieces of the debris of the stars. This could be considered to be the greatest fortune he had ever obtained in his life. 3 years later, Ji Tianqing's injuries were completely healed. He was in peak condition, and his strength was close to the peak of the 9th heaven God King realm. At this moment, he wasn't far from the peak of the God King realm. Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Chao Qingyu, and the others had been cultivating in seclusion for a few years. They had also digested the power of merit. Everyone's strength, talent, and aptitude had obviously improved. This was especially so for Ji Wushuang, Qian Yu, He Long, and Bai Long. They had all increased by a level, reaching the 2nd and 3rd heaven God King realm. Everyone came out of seclusion and woke up. At this time, Ji Tianqing gathered everyone and gave each of them 10 pieces of star crystals. These are the meteorites that we intercepted previously. They are all star fragments and crystals, and they contain extremely pure and powerful energy. Refine these star crystals and you will definitely increase your strength greatly. Ji Tianqing explained the origin and effects of the star crystals to everyone. They were very happy and excited. The meteorites that we destroyed previously are now hundreds of thousands of pieces. Doesn't this mean that there are hundreds of thousands of star crystals? What rich divine power of the stars! This is even more powerful than 10 king-grade divine pills. Just this one stellar crystal is worth tens of billions of cultivation resources. What a huge star crystal! It's actually tens of thousands of miles long and wide. It's like a huge mountain range. Oh my God! 10 pieces of star crystals. When will I be able to refine all of them? Probably a few hundred years. None of them were like Ji Tianqing, who had mastered the engulfing divine power and could quickly refine the star crystals. They could only slowly absorb the power of the star crystals, and their speed was dozens of times slower than Ji Tianqing's. Even so, they were still very happy that they had obtained the star crystals. Ji Tianqing encouraged everyone for a while before dispersing to cultivate in seclusion. He continued to refine the star crystals and worked hard to increase his strength to become a peak god king. Time flew by. Unknowingly, the Sword of Burial of Heaven had been flying for 3 months in the Tianyang star zone. It passed through tens of billions of miles of space and entered the center of the Tianyang star zone. It was about to reach the Liang star. At this time, Ji Tianqing and the others had been cultivating in the distorted spacetime for 12 years. Unfortunately, he had not broken through to the peak god-king realm even after refining hundreds of star crystals. However, he was only a step away from the peak god-king realm. As for the extent of his strength, it was impossible to estimate at this point. But one thing was certain. Other than the 5 god emperors of the divine world, no one was a match for him. In the dark and cold space in front of the Sword of Burial of Heaven, a dazzling golden star appeared. It was a Big Dipper star with a diameter of a few billion miles. It was as bright and dazzling as the sun. Compared to the hundreds of stars around it, it was a giant with a powerful aura. This was the center of the Tianyang star zone, the Liang star where the Zone Lord lived. The Sword of Burial of Heaven was still a few billion miles away from the Liang star and would arrive in 3 or 4 days. But then, the Sword of Burial of Heaven suddenly woke Ji Tianqing up. There are more than 20 divine warships in front of us heading towards the Liang star. Judging from their route, they seem to be coming from the same stars as us. Ji Tianqing, who had just finished his seclusion, frowned when he heard the Sword of Burial of Heaven's message. Are you saying that the 20 godly warships are the star lords and deity kings who fled in advance when the 14 planets were hit by the meteoroids? Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 3986. Ji Tianqing didn't expect to run into the star lords who had abandoned their planets and fled here. They should have escaped from the 14 planets almost a month in advance. They should have entered the Liang star by now. No one knew if the divine warships were too slow, or if something had happened along the way to delay them. Ji Tianqing didn't expect to run into the star lords outside the Liang star. How about, we kill them all before they enter the Liang star? Burial of Heaven asked Ji Tianqing telepathically while speeding up to catch up with the divine warships. Burial of Heaven despised the star lords who abandoned their people and fled on their own. He wanted to kill them. However, Ji Tianqing stopped him from doing so. He advised, we're too close to the Liang star. If we destroy the divine warships and kill the star lords, the Liang star will be alerted. Let's follow them into the Liang star and act accordingly. Burial of Heaven understood that Ji Tianqing wasn't worried that the experts of the Liang star would be alerted and join forces to attack him. He was worried that the experts of the Liang star and the domain lord of the heavenly sun star would notice something was wrong and flee in advance. Those god kings of foreign races had no moral integrity. They would run faster than anyone else once they noticed something was wrong. They didn't have any psychological burden at all. Therefore, Burial of Heaven said calmly, if that's the case, we'll do as you say. A few hours later, Burial of Heaven caught up with the divine warships. It hid its tracks and aura, as if it had become one with the dark void. It was very well hidden. The godly king experts on the 20-plus divine ships had been traveling in the void for 4 months. They had let down their guard long ago. Moreover, they were about to enter the Liang star. There shouldn't be any accidents or dangers. Therefore, no one noticed that a pitch-black divine sword was silently following the fleet. Not long after, the fleet passed through the spatial barrier and entered the Liang star. Burial of Heaven followed closely behind. It didn't expose itself or encounter any obstacles. The boundless Liang star had more than 10 vast continents, as well as mountains, rivers, and sceneries with distinct seasons. There were tens of billions of living beings living on each continent. The Liang star should be the most prosperous and populous star in the entire domain of Heavenly Sunday. The fleet of more than 20 divine warships had clearly received orders from the Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord. Without any hesitation, they headed straight for the blazing Sun continent in the north. Ji Tianqing knew that the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord's cave dwelling was located in the depths of the continent, in a secret realm with an excellent environment. Ji Tianqing was quite clear about the situation in the secret realm. After all, Divine King Everwind had been there many times. Each time, he would stay for half a month. After entering the blazing sun star, the fleet slowed down a lot. Obviously, they were too tired to travel. Now, they were completely relaxed. After 7 days, the fleet finally arrived at the heavenly Yang secret realm of the blazing sun continent. The entrance to the mystic realm was located in a sea of white clouds above a snowy plain. The entrance was a huge space array that formed a light gate that was hundreds of meters tall. There were close to 100 guards standing guard on both sides of the door of light. The 2 guard commanders were both mid-level divine kings. These guards were all wearing shiny silver armor, holding halberds in their hands and carrying divine swords at their waists. They looked majestic. The fleet of more than a dozen star lords arrived at the entrance of the mystic realm and stopped to be interrogated. The star lords didn't need to show themselves. Their assistants and trusted aides naturally came forward to negotiate with the guard commanders. They took out their identity tokens to indicate their identities and intentions. After a short discussion, the fleet was allowed to enter. However, the mystic realm was the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord's cave dwelling. The fleet was not allowed to enter. The 14 star lords had to show themselves. They put away more than 20 divine warships and led more than 20 followers and trusted aides into the Heavenly Yang secret realm. Ji Tianqing took this opportunity to quietly appear and put away the burial of heaven. Using the same trick, he turned into a speck of dust and attached himself to the armor of a foreign race's divine king. He then followed the crowd into the mystic realm. The mystic realm had beautiful mountains and rivers and was filled with divine power. A bright golden star hung in the blue sky. The star lords led their trusted aides and followers into the depths of the mystic realm. They didn't look like stray dogs that had lost their homes. After flying for 300,000 miles, a group of magnificent palaces appeared at the peak of a mountain in front of them. Many foreign race experts and guards could be seen in the palaces, which were obviously designed in a foreign race's style. The 14 star lords flew to the peak of the mountain and landed outside the majestic Heavenly Sun Divine Palace. They explained their intentions to the guards guarding the palace. In fact, the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord had already received news that they would be coming today. When he heard the guard's message, the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord immediately ordered for the Star Lords to meet him. The 14 Star Lords gave their followers and trusted aides a few instructions. It was probably because these followers and trusted aides were afraid that they would lose their composure and say the wrong thing since it was their first time meeting the Domain Lord. Everyone entered the magnificent palace one after another. They lined up in 2 rows and bowed to the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord, who was sitting on the main throne. The Heavenly Sun Domain Lord was a colorful foreign race expert with a tiger's head and an eagle's body. He exuded the aura of a peak god king. The 14 star lords and many god kings were very respectful to the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord. Only Ji Tianqing knew that the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord was just for show. However, he didn't show himself. He remained invisible and hid in a corner of the palace, waiting to see what would happen. After the Star Lords bowed, the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord nodded slightly and motioned for them to rise. Then, he laughed heartily and exchanged pleasantries with the Star Lords. Star Lords, you have traveled a long way and spent 4 months to reach the Liang Star. It must have been very tiring. I received the news in advance and ordered people to arrange accommodations for you. After the meeting is over, I will send people to take you to rest. The Star Lords also put on smiles and pretentiously thanked him. After chatting for a while, the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord went straight to the point. The 14 planets led by the 1000 Blue Planet encountered a rare meteor shower. I deeply sympathize with you. I wonder, did the Star Lords transfer their resources and wealth when they left? You shouldn't have left out the Divine King experts of the various stars. Did you bring them all away? Ji Tianqing didn't expect that the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord wouldn't even bother to put on a show. He didn't ask about the casualties of the 14 planets, nor did he try to comfort them. Instead, he asked these questions directly. The 14 Star Lords were used to it and didn't find it strange. The 1000 Blue Planet Lord took the lead to report the situation, and the other Star Lords followed suit. Sir, only 3 God Kings were left from the 1000 Blue Planet. A total of 15 God Kings escaped. I have brought 80% of the cultivation resources and wealth I collected over the years. Sir, only 3 of the 12 God Kings from the Niamo planet were left. 70% of the wealth and resources were transferred. Sir, 13 God Kings from the vast star were left. 70% of the resources were transferred. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 3987. The Heavenly Sun Domain Lord nodded with a satisfied smile as he listened to the Star Lord's reports. However, a few Star Lords had fled in a hurry. They had only taken a few God Kings with them and transferred a small portion of the wealth and resources. The Heavenly Sun Domain Lord's smile faded when he heard their reports. He frowned and looked displeased. The Star Lords who had satisfied the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord were all calm and collected. The Star Lords who had made the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord frown and displeased were uneasy. Fortunately, the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord didn't make things difficult for them after hearing their reports. He said calmly, apart from a few Star Lords who were a little flustered, the rest of the Star Lords responded calmly. I'm very pleased. After the meeting, please pay the tribute according to the rules. Don't delay Lord Supreme's orders. The 14 Star Lords all bowed and said that they had received the order. The Heavenly Sun Domain Lord then asked, I received your message earlier. I only knew that a meteor shower had attacked your planet, but I didn't know the details. Which Star Lord can tell me in detail what happened and what the outcome was? The 14 Star Lords frowned and looked awful after hearing that. Well, the Heavenly Sun Region Lord guessed the reason when he saw everyone cowering and hesitating. He frowned and asked, could it be that you're running away before the meteor shower has even arrived? Did no one know the process or the outcome? The dozen or so Star Lords quickly lowered their heads in tacit agreement. Seeing the Heavenly Sun Domain Lord's displeasure, 1000 Blue Star Lord quickly stepped forward and explained, My lord, the meteor shower was unprecedentedly large. I've never seen anything like it before. 1000 Blue Star Lord bore the brunt of it, so I know a little better than you. The meteor shower was hundreds of millions of miles long and 200 million miles wide. We were weak, so we could only run away as fast as we could. No one dared to hesitate or stay. If we couldn't escape the meteor shower's range, we would all be smashed to pieces. The Heavenly Sun Domain Lord's expression eased a lot. He nodded and asked, so, it's been 4 months, and you don't know the outcome? The 14 Star Lords shook their heads. The 1000 Blue Planet Master smiled bitterly and said, Sir Region Master, there is no need to doubt the results. Such a terrifying meteor shower would definitely blast the 14 stars into smithereens and collapse on the spot. The Heavenly Sun Domain Lord frowned and sighed. Sigh, why would we encounter such a calamity for no reason? With 14 stars destroyed, he would not be able to collect cultivation resources in the future. Every 50 years, the amount of tribute that I have to hand over has decreased by a lot. I hope that Lord Supreme Martial Artist won't get angry. The 14 Star Lords were lost for words and remained silent. Some of the anxious Star Lords wanted to ask the Heavenly Sun Region Lord how he was going to settle them down. Were they going to be sent to other planets to continue being Star Lords? Or should he leave them on the blazing Sun Star to serve under the Domain Master? However, the Thousand Blue Planet Lord knew that it wasn't the time to talk about that. She hinted at the other Star Lords to stop them. Thus, the meeting ended. The Heavenly Sun Protector waved his hand and motioned for everyone to leave. He then reminded the Star Lords to pay the tribute to the Chief Steward immediately. The Star Lords and the Divine Kings hurriedly bowed and left the conference hall. Next, the 14 Star Lords went to the Chief Steward and handed over trillions of cultivation resources to each planet. The Heavenly Sun Protector returned to his study and continued to deal with government affairs. At the same time, he also sent messages to several Star Lords and urged them to complete their tasks as soon as possible. Ji Tianqing secretly followed the Heavenly Sun Protector and snuck into his study. After observing for a while, he realized that the Heavenly Sun Protector had already made preparations. It turned out that the Heavenly Sun Protector had ordered the 6 Star Lords to investigate the situation of the 14 stars as early as 10 days ago. The planets that the 6 Star Lords occupied weren't far away from the 14 stars. Obviously, it would save them the most time and effort to investigate the situation. The Heavenly Sun Protector had ordered this because he wanted to know the consequences of the meteor shower and whether the 14 stars still existed. However, the 6 Star Lords who had been ordered to investigate the situation had already sped up and couldn't report back for the time being. The Heavenly Sun Protector pondered that he had to know whether the 14 stars were still there before he could decide how to settle the 14 Star Lords. Therefore, he gave strict orders to the 6 Star Lords who were investigating the situation. No matter what, he had to know the results by tomorrow. A boring and dull day passed. The Heavenly Sun Protector was very busy. He had been dealing with government affairs in his study and hadn't left at all. Ji Tianqing wasn't in a hurry to deal with the Heavenly Sun Protector. Since he was bored in the study, he wandered around the Divine Palace. The 14 Star Lords who had fled from the disaster went to their residences to rest after handing in their tributes with their confidants and attendants. On the surface, they said they were resting, but in fact, they were a little nervous. They gathered together to discuss how the Heavenly Sun Protector would settle them down. Ji Tianqing eavesdropped for a while and understood their true thoughts. 12 Star Lords didn't want to stay on the Liang planet. They all wanted the Heavenly Sun Protector to send them to other planets. Only 2 Star Lords were willing to stay on the Liang planet and work for the Heavenly Sun Protector. Although they would have more power and a higher status if they stayed under the Heavenly Sun Protector's command. However, this also came with greater risks. In contrast, most Star Lords were more willing to rule a planet and be an unrestrained local overlord. Finally, the next night arrived. The 6 Star Lords who had been ordered to investigate the situation finally sent back a message to the Heavenly Sun Protector. After reading the reports, the Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord's spirits were lifted and he breathed a sigh of relief. The results of the 6 Star Lords' reports were beyond his expectations and puzzled him. However, he was obviously more happy than suspicious. He didn't hesitate to issue an order to summon the 14 Star Lords to the conference hall for a discussion. After receiving the order, the 14 Star Lords rushed to the conference hall, full of anticipation, without even bringing their attendants or confidants. They all thought that the Heavenly Sun Protector had already thought about how to settle them down. Ji Tianqing had been hiding and watching coldly from the side. Of course, he followed them when he saw them going to the conference hall. Soon, everyone was gathered in the conference hall. After the two sides greeted each other, the Heavenly Sun Protector went straight to the point. Dear Star Lords, I've called everyone here in the middle of the night because I have great news to announce. I've sent a few envoys to personally investigate the situation of the 14 planets. The results were beyond my expectations, as well as yours. That massive meteor shower had miraculously collapsed and disintegrated. The 14 stars had all suffered varying degrees of damage, but miraculously, they were all preserved and not destroyed. Therefore, you haven't lost your home and can return tomorrow. Chapter 3988. The sudden good news silenced the hall. The 14 Star Lords were stunned, and their eyes widened in astonishment. They were still trying to figure out how the Heavenly Sun Ruler would settle them down. Who would have thought that their planet would survive and not be destroyed? This was simply a huge surprise, too unexpected. Everyone was stunned for a few breaths before they came back to their senses. Then, they burst into cheers and exclamations. Oh my God! Is this true? It's unbelievable. How could that devastating meteor shower disintegrate for no reason? Our planet wasn't destroyed. How is that possible? Great! Our planet is still there, and so are our people and territory. The 14 Star Lords whispered to each other excitedly. Their hanging hearts could finally be put down. They didn't have to think about how the Heavenly Sun Ruler would settle them down, nor did they have to worry about their future. However, as everyone calmed down, the same doubts filled the minds of every Star Lord. My lord, this can't be fake, can it? Did the emissaries see it with their own eyes? Yes, my lord, that meteor shower was so huge. How could it collapse for no reason? When we fled, the meteor shower was only a few 100 million miles away from our planet. It would have hit us in 4 to 6 hours. How could it collapse for no reason? Even if there were experts protecting our planet, who in this world could have withstood such a terrifying catastrophe? Everyone looked at the Heavenly Sun Ruler with burning eyes, waiting for his answer. Of course, the Heavenly Sun Ruler didn't know what was going on, but he had already thought of an excuse. In the face of everyone's doubts, he pointed to the sky above his head with a mysterious smile and said confidently, "Don't forget that although I'm the domain lord of the Tianyang Star region, I'm actually working for Lord Supremacy. The mysterious Lord Supremacy has always protected the entire Heavenly Sun Star region. I've never seen Lord Supremacy's true appearance, but his strength and means are no different from the heavens. So, you should now know who withstood the catastrophe and protected our trillions of people, right?" Hearing that, the 14 Star Lords were stunned for a moment. Then, they were all shocked and found it hard to believe. Was it Lord Supreme, who neutralized the meteor shower and protected our star? Unbelievable. Just what realm is Lord Supreme at to have such terrifying strength and divine abilities? If it was really done by Lord Supreme, then he can really be compared to the heavens. Yes. In the face of that meteor shower, other than the heavens, no one can save our planet and its people. In that case, could it be that the mysterious Lord Supreme is the heavens? The Heavenly Sun Protector put on a satisfied smile as he watched the Star Lords discussing with shock and admiration. However, when he heard that everyone's discussion was a little off topic, he hurriedly reminded them, "Everyone, Lord Supreme Martial Artist isn't God, but he's comparable to God. You have to understand. When you return to your respective planets, you must also explain this to your people. It was because of their devout faith in Lord Jizun that Lord Jizun acted to resolve the crisis and save everyone. Don't talk about going to heaven. What's the use of going to heaven? Lord Supreme Martial Artist is our sky." The 14 Star Lords hurriedly nodded to show that they understood. This way, they would know how to explain to their people when they returned to their respective planets. In fact, they would even spare no effort to flatter Lord Utmost Exalted, and exaggerate Lord Utmost exalt its achievements to the heavens. After a long while, the noisy meeting hall finally quieted down. The Heavenly Sun Protector looked at everyone and ordered, "All right, today's meeting is over. Star Lords, go back and rest. You will set off early tomorrow morning. Remember, when you return to your respective planets, you must quell the chaos as soon as possible and win the hearts of the people. In the next 50 years, you will still have to submit enough tributes according to the rules." The 14 Star Lords beamed with joy and nodded in agreement. Then, they bid farewell and left. After everyone left, the Heavenly Sun Protector sneered and turned to leave the meeting hall. Ji Tianqing also left the hall and continued to stroll around the palace while remaining invisible. He wasn't strolling around. Instead, he was exploring the layout of the palace, looking for the key array and the location of the treasury. Before coming to the Liang Star, he only wanted to kill the Heavenly Sun Protector and cut off the 9 Suns God Emperor's wings. He also wanted to find out about his master. However, after seeing the ugly state of the Heavenly Sun Protector and the other Star Lords in the past 2 days, he wanted to kill them. At this point, it wasn't as simple as killing the Heavenly Sun Protector. The next morning, the 14 Star Lords left the Divine Palace with their trusted subordinates and their entourage in delight. Ji Tianqing quietly followed them out of the Heavenly Sun's secret realm. Then, the 14 Star Lords and their trusted aides and followers all took out their divine warships. 28 divine warships flew high into the sky and soon entered the void outside the realm. These people were eager to return home, so the fleet flew a little faster than when they had come. Ji Tianqing followed behind the fleet, neither arrogant nor impatient. It wasn't until 2 days later, when the fleet had flown 400 million miles away, that he made his move. This distance wasn't far from the Liang Star. However, there were no godly kings following them along the way. Even if Ji Tianqing destroyed the entire fleet, he wouldn't be discovered. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing suddenly accelerated, flew above the fleet, and took out the primordial chaos bell. Seal! He shouted angrily and injected a vast amount of divine power into the divine bell. Immediately, the primordial chaos bell expanded to a radius of 50,000 miles and descended from the sky to suppress the entire fleet. The Star Lords and godly kings in the various divine warships were still immersed in excitement and joy. They weren't prepared for a sudden attack at all. By the time they realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. The entire fleet and the 28 divine warships were enveloped by the primordial chaos bell. The divine warships were surrounded by absolute darkness. Everyone was terrified and anxious. The 14 Star Lords roared angrily and sent their trusted aides and guards to check the situation outside the divine warships. At that moment, Ji Tianqing turned into a giant golden god that was 10,000 feet tall. He held the sword of burial of heaven and began to kill. Swoosh! He held the 800-foot sword of burial of heaven expressionlessly and slashed with all his might. With a loud boom, an upper-grade king-grade divine warship was split in half on the spot. Countless cultivation resources poured out and sprinkled in the void. There were also a few dozen divine monarch realm guards and a few divine king realm experts mixed in. Ji Tianqing ignored the panicked guards and godly kings and slashed at the other divine warships. Boom! Bang, bang! Boom! With a series of loud bangs, the divine warships were split in half one after another and countless pieces splashed everywhere. Chapter 3989. The 28 divine warships could travel freely in the void and protect the safety of tens of thousands of people. In fact, when they formed a fleet, they were like a fortress. But under Ji Tianqing's sword, these divine warships were incomparably frail, like paper paste. In less than 100 breaths of time, Ji Tianqing had destroyed all 28 divine warships. The wreckage of the divine warships and scattered cultivation resources floated in the void. More than 140 Divine King realm experts and thousands of Divine Monarch realm experts were scattered in the void. Although they had the advantage in numbers, they were suddenly attacked and lost the protection of the divine warships. They all fled in panic. Of course, they split into 14 teams and fled in different directions. But unfortunately, the primordial chaos bell had sealed off the area within a radius of 50,000 miles. These foreign race experts and Ji Tianqing were all inside the primordial chaos bell. Without Ji Tianqing's permission and breaking through the primordial chaos bell's defenses, they would definitely not be able to escape. When the 14 teams were blocked by the primordial chaos bell and saw that they could not escape, they could only stop and fight. The Divine Lord Guards were panicking, but the 14 Star Lords were still calm and collected. Even though they did not know who had attacked them. But when they saw that there was only one attacker, they immediately relaxed a lot. Everyone, don't panic. There's only one person blocking our fleet. Although that guy is a high-level godly king and is very strong, we have more than 1,000 people. That's right. The elite experts of our 14 stars are all here. Even if it's a peak godly king, we can easily kill him. Everyone, don't run anymore. Let's work together to kill him and then think of a way to leave. Quickly send a message and inform the territorial lord. Ask him to send reinforcements. More than a dozen Star Lords shouted and gave advice to stabilize the morale of the troops. Soon, the 14 teams closed in on the center from all directions. Everyone's eyes and attention were focused on Ji Tianqing. Everyone held swords, sabers, and all kinds of divine weapons, looking murderous. More than 1,000 godly lords and godly kings against a peak godly king expert. In anyone's eyes, the result was obvious. Therefore, the foreign race experts on the 14 planets were not afraid at all. They were only worried that the combined attack of more than 1,000 people would turn the other party into ashes. They were simply unable to vent their anger and killing intent. It looked as if a fight was about to break out due to the disparity in numbers. But at this time, Ji Tianqing took out the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes Pagoda and opened a spatial passage. Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Chao Qingyu, and the others who had been cultivating in seclusion in the Godly Pagoda left the Godly Pagoda and appeared in the void. Swoosh! Swoosh! Following the flashes of white light, over a dozen Divine King powerhouses appeared beside Ji Tianqing. They were always cultivating in seclusion in the distorted spacetime. It was too dry and boring. It was not easy to come across such an opportunity for actual combat. Of course, no one was willing to miss it. Everyone stood in a circle, facing the 1,000 or so alien experts from all directions. Not only were they not worried or afraid, but they were also eager to fight. That scene made the 14 Star Lords frown. They knew that the situation was not good. If they were only besieging a peak divine king, they would have an absolute advantage in terms of numbers, so it would be a piece of cake. However, besieging a dozen divine kings, even though the Star Lords were confident that they would win, they also knew that they would suffer heavy casualties. For a moment, the Star Lords and the divine kings of the alien races became solemn. They were even hesitating whether they should stall for time and wait for the Heavenly Sun Region Lord to send reinforcements. However, the attendants and guards who were responsible for sending messages said that they couldn't send any jade slips, they couldn't contact the Heavenly Sun Region Lord at all. The 14 Star Lords became even more anxious and worried. While they were hesitating, Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao and the others attacked first. Kill! Let's go! You have to protect yourselves when you're fighting the enemy. Everyone shouted and waved their divine weapons, performing divine powers and ultimate skills to attack the divine lords and divine kings of the alien races. It was as if they weren't facing ferocious alien overlords, but a bunch of monsters with experience. The 14 Star Lords and the divine kings of the alien races were stunned, they couldn't help but roar and curse. Damn those B** stars! How dare they attack before we even do anything? Are those alien races crazy? They're looking down on us and humiliating us. I feel like we're not the ones besieging them, they're the ones besieging us. What are you waiting for? Fight with all your might and kill them all. As the Star Lords gave their orders, the 1,000 or so divine lords and divine kings of the alien races also roared and charged. A fierce battle broke out. Yun Yao and Ji Ke took Ji Wushuang and attacked the divine kings and divine lords of the alien races in the east. They were also paying attention to Ji Wushuang's situation while fighting bravely. This battle was to train Ji Wushuang, increase her actual combat experience and stabilize her foundation of the divine path. Naturally, they couldn't let her encounter any real danger or suffer any fatal injuries. Bai Feng attacked the divine lords of the alien races in the west alone, performing all kinds of divine powers and ultimate skills. Chao Qingyu, Yank, and Lan attacked the divine lords of the alien races in the south. Lin Shui, Divine King Blood Illusion, Qian Yu, and Black Dragon worked together to kill the divine lords of the alien races in the north. As for Ji Tianqing, he was above everyone else and controlled the situation. He performed all kinds of divine powers with his left hand and slashed with his sword with his right hand, killing the divine lords of the alien races quickly. At the same time, he used his divine sense to monitor the situation and protect everyone. Once someone was in danger of losing their life, but was unable to dodge or resist, he would make a timely move to save them. Just like that, everyone fought and killed without mishap. They benefited a lot from the battle. In just an hour, more than half of the 14 Star Lords had been killed by Ji Tianqing. Only 5 were still holding on bitterly. He also killed more than 60 Divine King Realm Divine Lords of the alien races. As for the Divine Lord Guards, he didn't deliberately kill them. However, the divine powers and ultimate skills he used were too powerful and he killed more than 300 divine lords in an instant. As for Yun Yao, Ji Ke, Bai Feng, and the others, their performance was also very eye-catching. They killed more than 40 divine kings of the alien races and more than 500 divine lord guards. As a result, there were only 100 divine lord guards, more than 30 divine kings of the alien races, and 5 star lords left on the battlefield. The surviving divine lords of the alien races were all injured and covered in blood. They were in a sorry state. Even Yun Yao, Ji Ke, and the others were injured, but it wasn't a big deal. At this point, the outcome was already decided. The 5 star lords, the divine kings and the divine lords were all terrified. Chapter 3990. Although the 5 star lords and the foreign races still had the advantage of numbers, they were still surrounded by a group of people. However, when they gathered together, they were surrounded by Ji Tianqing and the others. Many non-humankind warriors huddled together, guarding against Ji Tianqing and the others. They were filled with fear and vigilance. The 5 star lords leading them were too afraid of death and wanted to surrender to Ji Tianqing. They didn't know Ji Tianqing's identity and background. But they were willing to be Ji Tianqing's captives and work for him in order to survive. Even the stars they controlled had to be given to Ji Tianqing with both hands. But Ji Tianqing wasn't interested in that and he didn't believe in the loyalty of the foreign race's divine kings. Even if he was willing to accept captives and train a group of divine kings as his subordinates, he wouldn't choose these foreign race's divine kings. So, Ji Tianqing decisively refused the 5 star lords' surrender and continued to fight. The 5 star lords and the divine kings and divine lords were completely desperate. They knew they couldn't survive, so they fought back desperately. But this was just a useless struggle. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and the others used another 15 minutes to kill all the remaining foreign races experts. After the battle, the space within 50,000 miles became calm again. More than 1,000 foreign races experts had been killed and Ji Tianqing only collected the divine fragments of 100 divine kings. As for the wreckage of the divine warships floating in the air and the cultivation resources and other resources, Yun Yao, Ji Ku and the others cleaned them up. Soon, they cleaned up the battlefield. Yun Yao, Ji Ku and the others counted the resources they found in the 28 divine warships. The total value was more than 3 trillion. Ji Tianqing, of course, took them all. He picked out the cultivation resources and treasures at the Divine King level and left them for everyone to cultivate with. He stuffed all the resources below the Divine King level into the heaven-mending orb to cultivate the 5 elements world. What made him feel a little awkward was that Qian Yu and the Black Dragon had also dragged the wreckage of the 28 divine warships back. Ji Tianqing did not want the remains of the divine battleship. But Qian Yu said with conviction that the wreckage of the divine warships had to be disposed of, otherwise, there would be traces left behind. This place was too close to Liang Star. It wouldn't be long before the Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler noticed the abnormality and found out the truth. Moreover, the divine warship was built with countless precious materials. He could not afford to waste them. Ji Tianqing felt that it made sense, so he stuffed the wreckage of the 28 divine warships into the heaven-mending pearl as well. Without a doubt, the heaven-mending bead was too busy. The hundreds of thousands of pieces of the debris of the stars that Ji Tianqing had stuffed in previously would take more than 100 years to refine. The 3 trillion cultivation resources and the wreckage of the 28 divine warships would take an unknown number of years to obtain. After cleaning up the battlefield and dealing with the spoils of war, Ji Tianqing allowed everyone to return to the divine tower to cultivate and heal their wounds. Then, he steered the sword of burial of heaven back to the blazing sun. He had dealt with the star lords of the 14 stars. Next, he would deal with the Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler. The Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler was in a good mood. When the 14 star lords had come to join him, he had been in a bit of a dilemma. He didn't know what to do with them. Every star in the Heavenly Sun Domain already had a Star Lord. He couldn't free up the positions of the 14 Star Lords to settle them down. Even if he kept the 14 Star Lords by his side, his subordinates were already full, and there weren't that many positions. Fortunately, the 14 stars hadn't been destroyed, and the 14 Star Lords could still return to their original positions. Moreover, he had thought of an explanation for everyone, which would also enhance Lord Supremacy's image and prestige. This was definitely the best of both worlds. He had already thought about it. When he met Lord Supremacy soon, he would definitely report this matter. If he could gain Lord Supremacy's favor, he would be able to reap great benefits. He had never forgotten that it was Lord Supremacy's guidance that allowed him to become a peak divine king. Without Lord Supremacy's guidance, he wouldn't have the power and status he had today. Therefore, he was deeply grateful to Lord Supremacy and was absolutely loyal to him. He would work hard to become Lord Supremacy's most trusted aide. That way, he would be able to leave the Heavenly Sun Domain and follow Lord Supremacy. He would come into contact with more secrets and gain more power. In the past, when Divine King Changfeng was still alive, he didn't even dare to think about this problem. This was because he knew that Divine King Changfeng was Lord Supremacy's emissary and a trusted aide who was highly regarded. However, Divine King Changfeng had mysteriously disappeared a few decades ago, and there was still no news of him. The Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler had checked Divine King Changfeng's Spirit Jade Tablet and found that it had shattered. Therefore, he was certain that Divine King Changfeng had died long ago. Lord Supremacy also knew about this and sent him a message a few years ago, ordering him to personally escort the cultivation resources to the depths of the void. After all, Lord Supremacy had yet to find a replacement after Divine King Changfeng's death. When the Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler received the order, he knew that his chance had come. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. After the 14 Star Lords left the Liang Star, the Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler ordered his trusted generals to begin gathering the cultivation resources. The endless cultivation resources were the tributes that hundreds of planets had submitted over the past few decades. Now, 4 days had passed. The 8 trusted generals, along with more than 200 guards, had already gathered the cultivation resources stored in various treasure vaults in the Divine Palace's conference hall. In the spacious hall, there were hundreds of treasure boxes of different colors piled up like a small mountain. Each treasure box was 1 meter long and 1 meter tall, and they all flickered with a faint divine light. There were array patterns engraved on each treasure box, and the name of each planet and the value of the tribute was written on it. There were 2 to 3 interspatial rings in each treasure box, and each ring was filled with cultivation resources. The Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler didn't need to check each one to estimate the total value of this batch of cultivation resources. The lowest value of each planet's tribute was 5 trillion. The total value of the tribute from more than 800 planets was more than 400 million. Such a terrifying amount of cultivation resources was enough to support the people of dozens of planets. Even though the Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler was experienced and knowledgeable, he was still shocked when he first heard the news from his subordinates. In the past, Divine King Changfeng had been in charge of this matter, and he hadn't dared to overstep his authority. Now that he was personally handling this matter, he realized that the cultivation resources of the entire Heavenly Sun Domain were an earth-shattering amount of wealth. Moreover, this wasn't a one-time thing, but a repeat every 50 years. The Heavenly Sun Domain's ruler paced back and forth in the meeting hall. He couldn't help but fall into deep thought as he stared at the mountain of treasure boxes. Most of the tributes sent by each planet are cultivation resources and materials below the Divine King level. Lord Supremacy has long surpassed the Divine King level, so what does he need these inferior resources for? No, I have to figure out this matter when I go to the depths of the void to escort the cultivation resources. Chapter 3991. The Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord pondered for a moment, then put the mountain of treasure boxes into his interspatial ring. Next, he gathered a dozen trusted generals for a meeting and gave them some instructions. When all the generals were present, he announced to them that he had to go out for a while. This trip could take as long as 40 to 50 years, and as short as 20 to 30 years. During this time, they had to take good care of the Liang Star and the Heavenly Sun's secret realm. At the same time, they had to maintain the peace and stability of the Heavenly Sun Star region. If anyone made a mistake, he would punish them severely when he returned. More than a dozen trusted generals hurriedly acknowledged the order and expressed that they would be loyal to their duties and would not neglect their duties. The Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord nodded with satisfaction and gestured for them to leave. A few of the generals took the opportunity to flatter him and told him to be careful on the way and to pay attention to his safety. A few generals also took the opportunity to ask him if he needed a large number of guards and a fleet to escort him. When would he leave? The Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord said that he was going to carry out a secret mission to serve Lord Supremacy. In order to keep a low profile and keep it a secret, he would leave the Heavenly Sun Star region alone. He would leave early the next morning and did not need anyone to follow him. The generals wanted to curry favor and say more words of concern. However, the Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord did not want to expose his secret, so he ordered them to leave. After everyone left the main hall, the Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord also left with satisfaction. He did not know that Ji Tianqing had quietly returned to the Divine Palace a few hours ago. Ji Tianqing, who was hiding in the dark, had seen everything that had happened in the great meeting hall. Originally, Ji Tianqing was still thinking that if he attacked the Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord in the secret realm, he would definitely be surrounded by dozens of god kings. The god kings of foreign races who stayed in the secret realm were mostly intermediate god kings and a few upper god kings. They were unlike the fleet that he had destroyed previously. Although there were more than 100 god kings, most of them were lower god kings. If he attacked in the secret realm, he would definitely succeed and his life would not be in danger. However, he would not be able to keep it a secret and would definitely alarm everyone. Now, the Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord wanted to escort a batch of tributes to the depths of the void. Ji Tianqing no longer hesitated and immediately came up with a plan. The Heavenly Sun Protector left the Liang star alone without any attendants or guards to escort this batch of tributes to the Nine-God Emperor. Then I'll wait for him to leave the blazing sun star before I make my move in the void. After making up his mind, Ji Tianqing waited patiently. Tomorrow morning, he would secretly follow the Heavenly Sun Realm Master and leave the secret realm and planet Liang. However, since he was bored, he secretly tried to find out what the Heavenly Sun Protector was doing in the study. The result surprised him. Just now, the Heavenly Sun Region Lord had told his trusted generals that he had to deal with some government affairs and would leave early the next morning. Unexpectedly, the Heavenly Sun Region Master didn't return to his study to deal with government affairs. After leaving the meeting hall, he hid his whereabouts and quietly flew out of the Celestial Palace. Although the Heavenly Sun Region Lord was a fake peak divine king, Ji Tianqing didn't care about him at all. However, the Tianyang Protectorate Master had managed to fool everyone in the Divine Palace. Ji Tianqing hurriedly followed the Heavenly Sun Region Lord and flew toward the exit of the secret realm. While he was on his way, he was still pondering silently. How could the Heavenly Sun Region Lord be so cunning and treacherous? How could he secretly leave the secret realm behind everyone's back? Could it be that he sensed danger and realized that I was secretly watching him? Or did he find out that the fleet had been destroyed? Or, is he just too paranoid and guarded against his generals and experts? Ji Tianqing secretly pondered for a while. He felt that the Heavenly Sun Region Lord couldn't have discovered that he was secretly watching him. Also, he wouldn't have found out that the fleet had been destroyed so quickly. There was only one answer. The Heavenly Sun Region Lord was too paranoid and guarded against his generals and experts. Humph. These sinister and cunning people are all paranoid by nature. They can't be trusted. This thought flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind. He despised the Heavenly Sun Region Lord. After leaving the secret realm, the Heavenly Sun Region Lord quietly flew high into the sky. It didn't take long for him to pass through the space barrier and enter the vast void. When he arrived in the dark and cold void, he revealed himself and took out an upper-grade king-grade divine warship. This 2,000-foot-long golden divine warship was extremely luxurious and exquisite. It was also set up with countless defensive divine arrays. It was obvious that the Heavenly Sun Region Lord cherished his life very much. He had even built his divine warship into a mobile fortress. Previously, the Heavenly Sun Region Lord had told his trusted generals that he wouldn't bring any attendants or guards and would carry out the mission alone. In reality, there were 6 God Kings and 300 elite upper-grade divine lords on the divine warship. These people were his most trusted attendants and guards. The Heavenly Sun Region Lord entered the divine warship and meditated in a secret room. 2 God Kings in charge of steering the divine warship steered it into the depths of the void. Everything went smoothly and very discreetly. However, the Heavenly Sun Region Lord didn't know that a pitch-black divine sword was following the divine warship unhurriedly tens of thousands of miles behind it. The divine sword was one with the void. It didn't emit any light, aura, or energy waves. No matter how careful the Heavenly Sun Region Lord was, he wouldn't be able to detect its presence. Time quietly passed. 7 days passed without him noticing. The Heavenly Sun Region Lord's divine warship had already flown 1.5 billion miles away from Liang star. He was completely relieved when he saw that the journey was peaceful and that there weren't any accidents. After giving orders to the 2 God Kings steering the divine warship, he prepared to cultivate in seclusion in a secret room. If nothing unexpected happened, he would cultivate in seclusion for 20 years. By then, the divine warship would have reached the depths of the void and he would be able to see Lord Supreme. In fact, when Ji Tianqing learned that the Heavenly Sun Region Lord was escorting a tribute to the 9-God Emperor, he had considered whether he should intervene. If he didn't, he could follow the Heavenly Sun Region Lord's divine warship into the depths of the void to see what the 5 God Emperors were up to. However, after careful consideration, he decided not to make contact with the 5 god emperors for the time being. After all, the 5 god emperors already knew that he had been reborn. It was just that they were being held back by the void and couldn't leave. That was why he had been able to survive until now. However, if he went near the void, it would be tantamount to suicide. Given the nature of the 5 god emperors, once they discovered his existence, they would definitely destroy him at all costs. He wasn't even a peak god king, so how could he withstand the 5 god emperors' attacks? With this in mind, Ji Tianqing decided to play it safe and not meet the 5 god emperors for the time being. He would first play the sidelines and disrupt the schemes of the 5 god emperors. He would kill the god emperors' lackeys and indirectly weaken the power of the god emperors. When the time was right, he would make direct contact with the 5 god emperors. Therefore, after 7 days, he made his move on the Heavenly Sun Region Lord's divine worship. Chapter 3992. This time, it was the same routine and the same familiar formula. Ji Tianqing sped up to catch up with the Heavenly Sun Territorial Lord's divine worship and summoned the primordial chaos bell to seal off the area within 50,000 miles. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the divine bell, which had expanded to 50,000 miles, enveloped the entire area. The divine worship was plunged into absolute darkness and filled with an invisible suppressive force. When the area was sealed off, the terrifying suppressive force enveloped the entire divine worship and reduced its speed by more than half. At the same time, the divine worship lit up with a dazzling divine light and an ear-piercing whistle sounded from within. Evidently, the 2 god kings operating the divine worship had sensed that something was amiss and hurriedly issued a warning to wake everyone up. Immediately, shouts and yells came from the divine worship. Large batches of Divine Lord Realm guards also rushed out from the various secret rooms and rooms. The guards and several god kings who were meditating and cultivating in their rooms were alarmed. Everyone gathered together and asked each other what had happened. They also released their divine consciousness to check the situation outside the divine worship. The commotion inside the divine worship was so great that it woke up the Heavenly Sun Territorial Lord, who was cultivating in seclusion. He had no choice but to end his seclusion. His face darkened as he stepped out of his secret room in anger. He was even more furious when he saw the divine worship in chaos and everyone's anxious and panicked expressions. "Quiet down, all of you. Shut up." The Heavenly Sun Territorial Lord roared angrily. His majestic voice reverberated throughout the divine worship. The 300 guards and the 4 god kings all fell silent. Everyone's eyes were focused on the Heavenly Sun Territorial Lord. The Heavenly Sun Territorial Lord asked in a low voice, "Who can tell me what happened?" The 300 guards didn't dare to utter a word. The 4 god kings didn't know the situation either, but they could only bite the bullet and answer, "My lord, we are still investigating." "Investigate my ass." The Heavenly Sun Territorial Lord frowned and cursed angrily. He released his divine consciousness outside the divine worship to check the situation in the void. His expression changed when he saw that the divine worship was surrounded by pitch-black darkness and that everything within 50,000 miles was sealed off by a pitch-black barrier. Who used a divine artifact to seal this void? Such a powerful divine aura, is it a supreme-grade king-level divine artifact? The Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord knew very well that an ordinary king-grade divine artifact could seal off the void. However, there was no way it would be as stable as a mountain without leaking anything. It was even more impossible for it to have such a terrifying divine aura. Therefore, it was very likely that it was a king-grade divine artifact. Most of the people who have a king-grade divine artifact are peak divine kings. Looking at the other party's posture, it's clear that they want to deal with me. Who is it that wants to kill me? In the recent several hundred years, this seat also didn't offend any peak divine kings. The Heavenly Sun Domain Lord remained silent as these thoughts flashed through his mind. He was very vigilant and puzzled. At this moment, in the pitch-black void outside the divine worship, a dazzling golden sword light that could split heaven and earth lit up. Boom! Before anyone could react, the giant golden sword struck the divine worship with a deafening boom. The people in the divine worship only felt the divine worship tremble violently a few times before it broke apart. The terrifying golden sword light had cut the heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord's worship in half. Divine light splashed out in all directions from the huge fracture. Countless fragments were thrown out and scattered in the void. More than 30 unlucky guards who happened to be standing near the fracture were killed on the spot by the sword light. Not even their corpses were left intact. They were reduced to pieces of flesh and blood that scattered in the void. The divine worship was destroyed and could no longer operate normally. It could only float in the void. The huge impact caused the two halves of the divine worship to violently tumble in the void. More than 200 guards were dizzy from the fall, and a deep sense of fear grew in their hearts. Only the heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord was relatively calm. He knew that hiding in the broken divine worship was useless and would only make them targets. Therefore, he shouted in a dignified tone, "Everyone, don't panic. Hold your weapons tightly and abandon the worship immediately." More than 200 guards and 6 divine kings were his confidants and were absolutely loyal. When they heard his shout, they immediately escaped from the broken divine worship without hesitation. Swoosh! Swoosh! In a short while, everyone had escaped from the broken divine worship and gathered in the void. When everyone gathered, they finally saw that the culprit who had intercepted them was alone. He was a 1,000-foot-tall man from the Dragon clan who was covered in golden armor. He looked sacred and dignified. He was handsome and valiant, and his entire body exuded an aura that looked down on the world. However, the golden armor covered his face, making it impossible to see his appearance clearly. This made him look rather mysterious. The heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that their opponent was alone. The worry and fear in everyone's hearts dissipated, and they regained their calm and composure. The heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord waved his hand, and the 6 divine kings immediately understood. They spread out with more than 200 guards and surrounded the young man. The young man in golden armor was very conceited. He was indifferent when he saw that everyone had formed a circle around him. He had no intention of breaking out. After the circle was formed, the heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord shouted, "Who are you? Why did you intercept my worship? I don't know you, and we have no enmity between us, right?" He knew that the young man was a peak divine king. However, the young man was alone, and he did not take it to heart. The young man in golden armor was naturally Ji Tianqing. He stared coldly at the heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord and said in a deep voice, "Of course, we have no enmity between us, but you are Lu Jiuyang's lackey. You deserve to die." The 6 divine kings and more than 200 guards were stunned when they heard this. Everyone had the same question in their minds. Who is Lu Jiuyang? The others did not know, but the heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord knew that the Lord Supreme who had helped him was the 9 Suns God Emperor. The heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord suddenly understood many things, and his expression changed drastically. "You are Lord Supreme's enemy? You killed Divine King Chang Feng a few decades ago, right?" Ji Tianqing did not deny it. He said coldly, "Divine King Chang Feng is dead. It's your turn now." As expected. The heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord frowned. He thought to himself that if he reported this news to Lord Supreme, it would be a great merit. However, he did not dare to act rashly as Ji Tianqing was staring at him. He transmitted his voice to one of the divine kings behind him and asked him to send a message. Although he did not know Ji Tianqing, he knew that the young man was Lord Supreme's enemy, and that he was the murderer of Divine King Chang Feng. The divine king was stunned. He transmitted his voice to the heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord, "You want me to send a message to Lord Supreme? However, I don't have the corresponding communication jade slip, so I can't contact him. The Heavenly Sun Protectorate Lord finally reacted. Only he and Divine King Chang Feng were qualified to contact Lord Supreme. He hurriedly took out a special purple jade slip and handed it to the high-level Divine King behind him. The Divine King hurriedly reported the situation to Lord Supreme according to his request. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.